It's an insult, right? How dare the Iranians strike us? We are superior to them is the mentality by the likes of Itamar Ben-Gvir and also Israeli society broadly. This is precisely the reason why I found it unique and interesting that Iran had not engaged in this kind of action already. President Trump tells me I'm calling Netanyahu right now and telling him not to attack Iran in response. The IRGC was working. Sirens have stopped for now following several missiles. There was an initial wave. At least 4 Iranian missiles have launched towards the north. Another wave of missiles launching now. Okay, Iran has been peppering. Sirens from Lake Tiberias to Haifa for the arrival of Iranian missiles. They're striking northern Israel. Following the initial wave, sirens rang nonstop for 10 minutes for the arrival of multiple additional launches. Now there's an early warning for more missiles. Sirens have stopped for now. This is from 12:47, 13 minutes ago, or almost 20 minutes ago. IRGC, tonight's operation was merely a warning announcement, and if aggressions are repeated, the response will be broader and will include all American Zionist targets in the region. Khan says, Israeli officials, we will respond to the launches from Iran. Quds translation, the Iranian response to the bombing of Beirut so far has exceeded the estimates of the security system in the occupation that Iran would respond in a limited manner. Yes. So basically what's happening here is, why is this video not? Oop, that's impact. Anyway, the Iranian military, the destroyed Iranian military is seemingly not so destroyed. So this was my question. This was something that I talked to Trita about as well, like why Iran was reluctant to strike Israel if it wanted to reestablish military deterrence. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir says Tehran must burn tonight. There's going to be a lot of posturing from the Israeli side here. Iranians out in the streets tonight cheering as they see missiles launched overhead towards Israel. Israeli army radio says at least 4 missiles were launched by Iran's military towards northern Israel just minutes ago. I mean, this is a much more limited strike, but the very fact that regardless of the limitations of this strike in comparison to other Operation True Promise style attacks is the fact that they hit Israel. Right? So that's somewhat of an escalation in comparison to the strategic restraint that Iran has shown since the beginning of the ceasefire, right? A couple weeks ago. So they hit 3 waves, 10 missiles, give or take. But the fact that they hit Israel, the fact that they chose to strike Israel implies that they are escalating as a matter of developing military deterrence. Okay, this was expected, and I was actually a little bit confused as to why Iran had not done so far in a way to reestablish that military deterrence. And I was actually very interested in hearing what Donald Trump would say. And it turns out Ahmed Segal and Trey Yingst are reporting, spoke with President Trump. We'll have more on Fox News in a few minutes. What I would suggest to Iran, you've shot your missiles. That's enough. Get back to the table and make a deal. It's over. It's over. Oh my God. The fact that Iran is not only just striking Bahrain, Kuwait, maybe the UAE, but now Israel, and Trump is still like, oh, ceasefire's still here. Guys, chill out. Yeah, tonight's missile launches appear largely performative as all sides test each other's red lines. Medium-term trajectory is likely a nuclear-armed Iran, which may counterintuitively bring stability to the region. Yeah, Matthew Petty says, I don't think Israel will let this stay performative. And Muhammad Ali Shabani says, depends on whether Trump will allow Bibi to drag him back into full-scale war. Next 24 hours will be instructive. I agree. I do think that it's if Trump says to Israel, dial it back, we have to secure this goddamn ceasefire, that's a huge deal. That means that there is complete recognition. That means there is complete recognition on the American side that this is over. They are basically admitting that this is over, that Iran has won, and that they are willing to restrain Israel. I don't know what Israel will do, though, because Israel is a rabid dog. And I don't think Israel is going to take this lightly, albeit this is symbolic or not. I don't think Israel is going to turn around and be like, well, this is a symbolic attack on Israeli soil. They're not they famously have zero chill on stuff like this because it's an ethno-religious supremacist society. And from their estimation, it's like it's not dissimilar to the moral wound or the major wound that they took, not as a loss of life on October 7 necessarily, but the fact that this like inferior group of people from their calculations was able to conduct such a devastating military operation on Israeli soil. It's an insult, right? How dare the Iranians strike us? We are superior to them is the mentality by the likes of Itamar Ben-Gvir and also Israeli society broadly. This is precisely the reason why I found it unique and interesting that Iran had not engaged in this kind of action already. President Trump tells me I'm calling Netanyahu right now and telling him not to attack Iran in response. Oh boy. I suspect Israel will say, Donald Trump here, this will draw a major wedge. Direct impact and no interception on this one, by the way, which is, again, interesting. Anyway, escalation trap, can't stop escalating. Ironically, has a lot of similarities to how Mao criticized Nazism as incapable of doing anything but offend structurally. Yes, because Israel is a Nazi country. And yes, we are in the end-sieg stage for Israel. It's not the final solution for Israel. It might reach that point as well. With respect to what they want to do to the Palestinian population when they get unbelievably desperate. But yes, Israel is engaging in a multi-front war of expansion and conquest right now. And the problem for them is that there is a military force capable of resisting that. There is a military force that is capable of creating military deterrence against that. So Israel might be preparing to strike with a forceful or powerful response, but this will only restart the war. Donald Trump is like, I'm bored. Let's get this ceasefire going. All of a sudden, he's going to not be so bored, I guess. Yeah, very different messages coming from Trump than we're hearing from the Israelis. Spoke with President Trump. We'll have more of Fox News in a few minutes. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if Donald Trump can rein in its attack dog.
Good afternoon. Iran has launched at least 4 waves of missiles at Israel in response to those IDF strikes against the Lebanese capital of Beirut earlier today. I just got off the phone with President Trump, who is following the developing situation across the region. He told me what I would suggest to Iran. You've shot your missiles. That's enough. Get back to the table and make a deal. The president once again calling for a negotiated settlement. He also spoke about the ongoing negotiations with Iran, saying we are very close. I would say an agreement would be signed on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of this coming week. And now this takes place. And so the president will get briefed on what is happening right now, this ongoing Iranian ballistic missile attack against Israel. But I asked him about those initial IDF strikes that took place earlier today. He told me they were not coordinated with the United States, and I asked him for reaction to the Israeli strikes against Hezbollah in Beirut, and President Trump said, I'm not happy about it. Now, more broadly, he said that the ongoing Iranian missile fire toward Israel at this moment certainly is not going to help the negotiations. But again, he is calling on the Iranians to stop firing these missiles and get back to the negotiating table to ultimately reach a settlement. The president talked about the power of the U.S. military and also the power of the ongoing U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports. This blockade, John, is currently crippling the Iranian economy. They are losing hundreds of...
Come on, Trey. Dude, Trey has been so bad. Like, he was always, foreign correspondent, right? And he's, it's Tel Aviv Trey. But it is crazy to me that he at least would be like sincere at times and be like, oh, what Israel's doing to the fucking Palestinian journalists is like morally repugnant. Since the Operation Epstein Fury began, he has been such a fucking regime propagandist. It is actually insane because when you do this and you are clearly in the wrong, right? You keep undermining your credibility. Not that it matters to the Fox News audience, because just like the drama slop tubers, the right-wing reactionaries on the internet, they're not there to learn what the truth is. They're there to have their biases be confirmed and reconfirmed over and over and over again. But it is very frustrating that this guy keeps consistently showing himself to be in the wrong with his analysis, with his statements, because he's just doing propaganda for Trump and openly doing it, where he's like, oh, Iran, Trump and I had a conversation and he's right. Iran's military capabilities have been deteriorated. Okay, now you're in fucking Tel Aviv and Iran is bombing Israel again. So clearly their military capabilities have not been deteriorated. What do you have to say to that? I know his ass knows the truth. He's just being disingenuous. It's embarrassing, okay? Have some fucking decency. Have some goddamn backbone, Trey. God damn, Tel Aviv Trey over here. He got that one promotion and he basically lost all of his capabilities of critical thought. Trump says, I hope that Israel will not attack in response. If Netanyahu orders an attack, it will continue with a counterattack. We are close with Iran to your deal to end the war and do not want to blow up the deal. Each side had their own fun tonight. I'm going to call Netanyahu and say, no, do not attack. Oh, it's fucking, he's not going to be able to rein it in. Dude, come on. Come on, dude. It's Jover. And was done deliberately to drive a wedge between U.S. and Israel to force America's hand in reining Israel in. Yeah. I said, let's see if Trump can rein in its rabid attack dog. It's clear that this limited strike is still an escalation in terms of establishing military deterrence against Israel and was done deliberately to drive a wedge between U.S. and Israel to force America's hand in reining Israel in. IDF bot accounts turn on Trump. Nice. Nice. Yeah, Unit 8200 deployed. That's very funny. They got one speed, man. What are you, a Muslim? That's it. That's literally the only meta that the Zionist mind has, is to just go, what are you, a fucking Muslim, dude? What are you, a fucking Muslim? God, you're being real Muslim right now with your actions. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Arya says, according to a source of mine, which allowed publication, Iran launched missiles from multiple different missile sites to send a message that Iran's missile complexes are active and ready. Here's what Ben-Gvir had to say. Tonight, Tehran must burn. According to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps via the Fars news agency, tonight's operation was merely a warning announcement, and if aggressions are repeated, the responses will be broader and will include all American Zionist targets in the region. The IRGC cites their reason for tonight's ballistic missile attack against northern Israel is continued Israeli strikes against Lebanon and U.S. attacks against Iranian coasts and vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, the Sea of Oman, and the Indian Ocean. The ceasefire is more stable than Charlie Kirk after he got shot? Yeah. My sources tell me the ceasefire is stable. Please, God.
Millions of dollars each and every day. And that's part of the reason that President Trump has been able to maintain this strategic patience across the Middle East, understanding that while the United States remains on alert in the region, they simply have to keep this blockade in place, and it will push the Iranians to the negotiating table.
Yeah. No, definitely. Every time America strikes Iran, it's actually to push them to the negotiating table. Every time Israel strikes Lebanon, it's actually to push Iran to the negotiating table. Well, it turns out Iran is actually the party that's pushing America to the negotiating table by, forcing America's hand in restraining Israel. That's the goal here. It's very clear because they are trying to goad Israel into potentially doing something that America doesn't want, because America obviously wants there to be a ceasefire. It's very clear, right? That's part of the reason why they're not fucking bombing Iran right now. Peak Barack Ravid. Yeah, I know. It's yes, Unit 8200. More quotes from my phone call with President Trump. The Iranian strikes didn't hurt anybody. Hopefully Israel is not going to retaliate. Oh! No. Oh, come on, dude. What are we doing? Hopefully Israel is not going to retaliate. If Bibi strikes them back, it's going to keep going like the last 47 years or the last 3,000 years. Trump added, we are very close to a final deal with Iran. It is going to be a good deal. I don't want to blow it up because of what's happening right now. Who's the superpower, man? Who is the motherfucking superpower here, Trump? You're the president of America. Who's daddy? The fuck's wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you? Bro, put the fucking shock collar on Israel and go place. Enough. Enough. Enough is enough. Restrain your attack dog. God damn. Yeah, this is the most humiliating and weak foreign policy adventure in modern times. Imagine what Fox and Hawks would be saying if Carter, Obama, Biden had done something this feckless. I mean, low key, I think it's because it's Israel that they wouldn't do this. I'll be honest. Because they were critical of Obama because he was too critical of Israel, not because Obama had enforced American superiority over Israel or American dominance over Israel. They were critical of Obama for being too critical of Israel. And they certainly were at times critical of Joe Biden for, this is laughable, being too critical of Israel again. So I think Fox News also has that Israel first priority in its coverage. And therefore, that's the reason why they're not going to fucking shit on. They're just not going to shit on any president for abiding by Israel's wishes. Trump spoke to Khan News. Oh my God, what is he doing? Trump to Khan News. I think Israel has responded enough. There doesn't need to be any more. We can achieve 3,000 after 3,000 years of peace. President Trump says he's not happy about Israel's earlier strikes on Beirut, Lebanon, and that the attacks were not coordinated with the U.S. per Fox News. Trump tells Iran, "You've shot your missiles. That's enough. Get back to the table and make a deal." I don't. Can I say something? I don't think Trump is going to Madison Square Garden tomorrow night. I don't think he's going to have time. And if he did, that would be insane. Like, I think that would be exceptional. I mean, what a big fuck you to everybody involved. He's like, nope, I don't care. I got to see my Knicks. Come on, 1999 is the last time they made it to the finals. This is a huge deal. Jalen Brunson, 6'2". He's such a strong guard. He doesn't worry about putting his body on the line, and therefore I have to see him in person. Yeah, he's gonna be like, my mayor Muslim, my bagel Jewish, and maybe my president too. My Christian Dior, Knicks in 4. Oh, video statements are back as well. It's back.
Because they are running.
It's back, dude. The war seemingly is back on the menu, it seems, you know? Anyway, Trump also, more quotes from the Barack Ravid, Barack Unit 8200 Ravid, says, Trump stressed, I'm going to call Bibi right now and tell him not to retaliate. Each of them had their turn. They had their fun. Yeah, let's get to, what is this? Okay. Osin Technical says, Israel's reportedly seeking permission from the U.S. to bomb Iranian energy facilities. Oh my God, they're so insane. IRGC, despite previous warnings from the Islamic Republic of Iran, the child-killing Zionist regime, crossing all red lines and increasing attacks in southern Lebanon, has targeted Dahia area of Beirut. We had previously warned that if crimes in Dahia, Beirut expanded, we would strike targets in the occupied territories. The Zionist army must stop its attacks on southern Lebanon and Dahia. And if it expands its attacks in that area or responds to Iran's actions, it will face more crushing and regretful blows and devastating attacks against the regime and its supporters. Yeah, this is the our boy is back. Yeah, the videos are back. He says, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, the Zionist aggressive regime, by repeatedly violating the ceasefire, has been increasing its evils against the oppressed people of Lebanon day by day with the green light and support of the criminal America and the silence of the international community, and has been committing war crimes using banned weapons, including phosphorus bombs, since Friday. Despite the previous warnings of the Islamic Republic of Iran, its child-killing Zionist regime has crossed all red lines and intensified attacks in southern Lebanon, targeting the Beirut suburbs. We had previously decided that if the crime in Beirut suburbs expands, we will bombard targets in occupied territories. The Zionist army must stop its attacks on southern Lebanon and the suburbs, and if it expands its attacks on the region or responds to Iran's actions, it will face more crushing and regrettable blows, and the destructive attacks will begin against the regime and its supporters, and there is no victory except from Allah, the Almighty, the Wise. What the fuck? Fars News has released a video of the IRGC missiles. Oh shit! I mean, I guess we don't really need to hear whatever else Trey Yinks has to say because it's bullshit. So whatever. Fars News has released a video of the IRGC missiles launched towards Israel tonight, with one missile having a drawing of a soldier taking down Baal, accompanied by a message saying Iran is on the path of Jesus and Moses and at war with the corrupt people of Epstein Island. Anyway, let's get to Dennis Citrinowitz's analysis here. Again, Atlantic Council's very own. The key question is now how willing President Trump will be to pressure Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to scale back military operations before events spiral beyond anyone's control. This is not because Trump has attractive options at his disposal. Quite the contrary. The timing could hardly be worse. Yeah, you hit when you have maximum leverage. You engage in a work stoppage when you have the most amount of leverage, right? And this is the same principle that Iran is utilizing. An event the administration would prefer not to see overshadowed by a major regional conflict because the FIFA Club World Cup is taking place in America. At the same time, global oil markets remain vulnerable to disruption, and any significant escalation involving Iran could trigger renewed concerns about energy supplies, shipping routes, and price volatility. Against this backdrop, Washington faces an increasingly difficult balancing act, maintaining pressure on Iran and supporting Israel while preventing a broader regional confrontation that could carry substantial geopolitical and economic costs. The challenge is that the longer the current trajectory continues, the harder it becomes to control the pace and scope of escalation. No. Trump shuts down New York City. There will be no Game 3 watch parties outside of MSG. Due to the Trump visit, the plaza closure was coordinated with Secret Service. NYPD confirmed they are working to establish alternative watch party locations for fans. New York City was rocking after Knicks Game 2 win on the road. Thousands of New Yorkers took celebrations to the streets. I expect Game 3 to be even crazier. Oh my God. I think Donald Trump wants New York to be a permanent blue enclave that it already is. But Donald Trump is solidifying that New York will never turn red. There will never be more than maybe maximum 100,000 red voters in the state of New York and in the city of New York in general. I think it's really funny though, because he might not even end up attending, but these security protocols will still be implemented. The White House will confirm that this is not about the president. Oh, okay. You are laughing. Mr. Finger Painter is crying because of this, and you're laughing. Scott Libido, my goat. Regarding Nick's watch party outside of MSG, yeah, they revoked the permit for the watch party outside of MSG. That's crazy. James Dolan invited his friend Donald Trump to watch Game 3. In order to do that, they have to ban the organic, historically joyous parties happening outside MSG for fans who can't afford to be inside. Modern sports in a nutshell. Bro, just shut the fuck up and mind your business, man, with your takes. Whole city is lit. You can literally watch the game on any block outside. Everyone got a TV watching the Knicks about to take it. You probably from Nebraska or something, giving your input on New York. Have you ever seen Libido say New York is nothing without pizza? No, I haven't. I don't think Donald Trump understands the enmity that he is developing, okay? The cheapest price for the game you're going to is $8,000. Everyday Americans can't afford these sporting events. Trump, no, but they can watch it on television. It's sort of semi-free to watch it on television, but that's the way life goes. Wow. Wow, dude. Incredible stuff.
This is fantastic. You just have a great team.
What do you think that the game you're going to, the cheapest price for the Game 3 you're going to is $8,000?
Yes, I know Paulo's from New York, man. I know.
Everyday Americans can't afford these sports.
Well, I know, but they can watch it on television. It's sort of semi-free to watch it on television, but that's the way life goes. You know?
My beautiful, my baby, my goat, my king, my alpha and omega, my everything, Stephen Chung in the background. Look at him. Look at him. That's like literally not even a quarter of his body, and you can feel his presence. Okay? Oh, God, I love him so much. I love him so much. He is so sexual to me. Yes, I'll say it. I'm unafraid. It's Pride Month, okay? The only man that I've ever felt this level of affection towards physically is Stephen Chung. He's not even round. He's angular. That's what's so beautiful about him. Like, he's rotund in many respects, but he's also angular as well. He is the size of that fish from SpongeBob SquarePants. Like, he is so perfect. He is a perfect shape. You cannot, like, many men have tried to reach physical perfection. Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He's tried so hard. He's experimented. with medicine, with
Georgian
science,
election.
and
He
yet
has been
none of them have
criticized
ever been
over
able to
the
achieve
last,
such a
week
perfectly
for
angular
having,
shape
agreed to President Trump's
that
demand
no
not to
other
strike
human
Beirut,
being can ever
earlier,
achieve,
in the week
except
before the strike
for
that took
Stephen
place
Chung.
today. Going to face a real crossroads here, as will the rest of the region as a result.
All right, Jeremy Diamond, thank you so much. I want to bring in now Julia Benbrook, who is in New Jersey, where the president is staying nearby this weekend. So, Julia, what news is coming out of the White House or the president on this matter?
Yeah, President Donald Trump, he is spending his weekend at one of his properties here in New Jersey. And we have reached out to the White House for an official response to what has taken place and how they believe that it will affect negotiations going forward. What we do know, as Jeremy outlined there, he's done a few brief interviews, one with Axios, where he told Barak Ravid he was going to have that conversation with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. There was also a conversation with a Fox News reporter who is stationed in Tel Aviv, who actually saw some of these strikes taking place and said he was asking Trump about how this could impact things and said it's certainly not going to help negotiations. He went on to say, we're very close. I would say an agreement would be signed on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of this coming week. And now this takes place. So he was projecting a lot of optimism toward a deal there, which we have heard repeatedly throughout this. This is the 100th day of this conflict in Iran. And ever since those first joint U.S.-Israel strikes against Iran on February 28th, Trump has promised that this conflict was going to end soon, very soon. He threw out a number of different predictions, a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Recently, he has been pushing back on criticism for how long this conflict is going on, saying that these things take time, sometimes even years to resolve. No doubt everything we're seeing play out right now has the potential to cause more issues going forward.
All right. Julia Benbrook in New Jersey, traveling with the president. Thank you so much. We'll be right back with more news after this.
This land premieres to.
I know you like number. I know you like number. I'm a numbers guy. I looked at the numbers and I think Donald Trump is doing the best possible thing here. I know you like number. There's nothing offensive about comparing the actions and mentality of Israel to those of the Nazis. What's offensive is demanding that one country and only it, Israel, be exempt from those comparisons because it hurts people's feelings or because it seems bigoted to compare them. The whole point of the Nuremberg trials was that the precedent set there would have meaning, i.e. be something beyond mere victor's justice. If those principles applied to actions of all countries in the future, Israel doesn't have some special unique exception from the imperative. Numerous statements of top Israeli officials from Netanyahu on down have obviously similarities in defining views of Nazism regarding who and who isn't fully human. The chief U.S. prosecutor at Nuremberg was Supreme Court of the United States Justice Robert Jackson, who made this vital point in his opening statement about the universal application of Nuremberg principles going forward. Despite this, numerous countries, including the U.S., have adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism that bans comparisons of Israel to Nazism, even though you're permitted to make that comparison about every other country on earth. Ah! Stephen Chung! Colorized! Fox News is the only one allowed. Everyone is calling Trump and he's picking up the phone. I just called the president and he responds to Iran's missile launch on Israel. He said he couldn't talk now, but added, things are going very well. Our brief conversation came after Axios reported he was going to ask Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu not to strike back. I know you like number. The Israeli right is having an aneurysm right now that Iran needs to be bombarded in a very big way because they responded to thousands of ceasefire violations in Lebanon. And the more Trump signals that he can't be bothered right now, the more they convulse. There's a certain resignation on Channel 14 at the moment where everyone is talking about Israeli officials telling them that something is going to happen, but then lamenting that Trump still holds the ultimate approval, which can still happen, but not immediately like they want. Call Trump and ask him what Stephen Chung is wearing. We know you got his digits. Yeah, I do, but I'm not going to do that. I know you like number. Fuck, I can't stop saying. I'm a numbers guy. I know you like number. And I got Trump's number on my phone, and I could call him right now. I could call him right now and say, Mr. President, Donald Trump, you're doing such a good job. Thank you for defending Israel. Mogged. Erica Kirk, that's not real. Erica Kirk will perform the national anthem on Game 3 on NBA Finals. Yeah, that's not happening. That'd be really funny, though. You got to grok it. You can never cloud it. I will never cloud it. Okay? Claudia, woman's name. I do Gemini. I can grok it. I chat GPT it. I never cloud it. Do you do this voice while not streaming? Yes, I stim all the time nowadays. Let me guess. Israel will be persuaded to back off even though ballistic missiles have been fired into that country. 4 waves targeting civilian populations. Is that what we would do? Aw, Marky Mark. Marky Mark, don't have an aneurysm, buddy. Don't worry. I'm sure Trump will still let the big dog do whatever he wants to do. All right, Truda says, a fragile arrangement had been reached in Lebanon. Iran had made clear that if Israel continued to strike Lebanon, it would strike at Israel. The U.S.-Israeli side says that overnight, Hezbollah killed 15 Israeli soldiers, a violation of that arrangement in their view, and a sign that Iran either didn't or couldn't control Hezbollah. At the same time, Israel knew that renewed attacks on Beirut, particularly Dahiyeh, would either force Tehran to attack or back down, while having the added benefit of further weakening U.S.-Iran diplomacy. Iran did not back down. An attack on Dahiyeh, according to the Iranians, is designed to kill as many senior Hezbollah and Iranian officials as possible, so a response was inevitable in their view. By now, 4 waves of missiles have been fired at northern Israel, Haifa, and other areas. Some missiles are of higher quality than the ones Iran used during the war. That's, again, also remarkable. Israel will strike Iran within the next few hours, and the Iranians don't have any other expectation. Whether the U.S. enters the fighting actively as well or only provides support for Israel is the big question mark right now. The U.S. side is deeply frustrated that the MOU has not been signed yet and accuses the Iranians of either playing for time or over-negotiating or being incapable of getting to yes. The Iranians, in turn, accuse the U.S. of constantly changing the parameters while being unwilling to release a portion of Iran's frozen assets at the outset of the MOU as a way to prove their seriousness. If Trump doesn't enter the war, he will be accused of abandoning Israel. If he enters the war, he will validate that Israel has an effective veto on the negotiations and on whether the U.S. is at war or not. A true America First policy would have worked to extricate the U.S. from the Israeli-Iranian rivalry. Now more than ever, it should be clear why such an exit serves U.S. interest. I knew that was a Mark Levin tweet you were reading without seeing it, so your Mark Levin is also improving. Hell yeah, thank you. What is this? Tell me you saw this. Hasan vindication again, that these people are so awkward IRL. I think I saw this. It sounds like the warning shot scared Trump and showed how much he wants to deal, which would be a good thing. But we've all fallen for this before, says Matthew Petty. I agree with that as well. Let's take a look at what CNN is saying. What CNN is saying
politically here. Trump is trying to find some sort of off-ramp in the midst of the very beginnings of what is a clear escalation. If Israel doesn't respond, that would be incredibly damaging politically to Netanyahu. And then, although it might try to de-escalate the entire situation, it also doesn't address Lebanon. So that the open threat from Iran to continue to strike Israel if Israel's operations in Lebanon continue still very much appears to be on the table. It was just last week that Iran threatened to attack Israel if Israel attacked Beirut, a threat that we very much saw them carry out just about an hour or so ago, the beginning of that, in what has been at least 3 barrages of Iranian missiles targeted towards Israel. So now we sit at this critical moment between the U.S., Israel, Lebanon, Iran, as we wait to see in which direction this goes. Trump has made his preference clear. He wants to push for the continuation of negotiations, not only with the U.S. and Iran, but also in all likelihood between Israel and Lebanon. It was just days ago that the U.S. brokered another ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, but Hezbollah rejected that, and we saw a continuation and escalation of fighting on that front. And now Trump is trying to continue to push for negotiations in the middle of what has been an incredibly volatile weekend, not only between Israel and Hezbollah, but also between the U.S. and Iran. And it very much looks like the ceasefire that looks like it's falling apart, both on Israel's northern border and in the Gulf, is at a critical moment where it could go either way.
Oh my gosh. All right. I mean, all of this is so important because you're really underscoring, the thoughts, the consequences of how will Netanyahu weigh the political versus the military ramifications of how to move forward if indeed being urged by the president of the United States to hold off on any kind of retaliation. I mean, is this something that stews for Netanyahu over a matter of hours or days before we see how he renders a decision given this kind of crossroad?
It's an incredibly important question and one of the most fascinating in this particular moment. Israel has the ability to respond within hours. They've had plans, and Netanyahu has made clear that he wants to continue the war against Iran. So it's likely very quickly that Israel could launch a wave of strikes against Tehran and against Iran. They've done so successfully throughout the first 2 or 3 months of this war, and they can do so again. Netanyahu has repeatedly touted his relationship with Trump. Trump, in fact, said just a couple of news that he has some disagreements on a couple of issues with Netanyahu, but they're generally on the same page here. So it would be an incredible and very open break if Trump suddenly tells Netanyahu not to respond after Israeli officials have made clear.
I think one of the craziest elements here that's like not being discussed as much is the reality that Israel's defenses have been deteriorated, okay? And that's part of the reason why some of these opening salvos, albeit limited, actually struck targets inside of Israeli soil. I don't know if Netanyahu is banking on that, especially because from his calculations, he might think, okay, if a couple Israeli civilians die in the process, this will also allow me to redouble my efforts. It'll galvanize the public against a war with Iran. So like, or even if that's a part of the consideration at all.
Conversation even further. CNN Global Affairs commentator Sabrina Singh. She's also former Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary under President Biden. Great to see you. I mean, how do you see this? This is an incredible juncture that has just been described by Oren and also Jeremy's reporting. How do you see all of this happening? And what the calculus is on all sides involved?
There's no question that the ceasefire right now is being tested and probably tested to its absolute limits. I mean, we haven't seen Iran and Israel strike each other since the ceasefire went into effect in early April. So I think if Israel chooses to respond back to these Iranian ballistic missile.
Stop calling Sabrina Singh denims, okay? Sabrina Singh is a warmonger and a war criminal. Denims is not.
Domestic concerns that Oren laid out there. I think the Israeli people would want to see a response back. So it's highly likely that Israel would respond. And they said, in a very large and massive manner. What that looks like still is to be determined. But I think what you're seeing right now is this ceasefire slowly breaking apart. Now, can the U.S., can Donald Trump bring everyone back to the table and try and, piece it together with bandages? I mean, that's also a potential. But I think also what we should be looking at here is, where does Pakistan's role fall in all of this? Can they also bring both sides, or at least Iran, to the table and to try and get them to stop any response? But of course, as we know, Iran is responding because of Israel's ongoing operations in the southern part of in Lebanon in response to Hezbollah. They wanted to see a ceasefire in Lebanon coupled with the ceasefire between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. And very much so, Israel is trying to decouple that from any ceasefire negotiation.
And you're bringing up, Pakistan, just a reminder to everybody, because it was in Islamabad where parties were there. I guess Pakistan kind of playing as a mediator in these peace negotiations. But oh my gosh, that seems like that was such a long time ago. So much has happened since then. So you see Pakistan as potentially still relevant in helping to further,
of course,
or encourage some sort of peace.
Of course,
dialogue.
Pakistan is relevant. My life for Pakistan. Pakistan is the table. As a Turk, this offends me. This hurts my feelings. But it is the truth. It is the reality. Pakistan is the table. Pakistan is at the table. Pakistan is the table.
Have played a role in the negotiations, do not want to see a resumption to this war. I mean, their oil facilities, oil refineries have been so badly damaged that we are going to feel the catastrophic effects from this war, as we're already seeing it with the oil prices. But frankly, for these Gulf nations to rebuild some of these structures, it's going to take years. And so they don't want to see a resumption to this war. I think every single party, including the United States, I mean, this president is seemingly does not want to restart kinetic action, but obviously reserves that right to do so if he chooses. But everyone is seeing the economic global impact that this war is having. And so bringing all the parties involved to the negotiating table, I think is where President Trump is, where the Gulf countries are. And, Iran, frankly, has more time to run down the clock. I think they're more willing to accept the consequences and pain. But this president has a political calculation to make, and I don't think that's.
But I thought they deteriorated the IRGC's military capabilities completely. This is shocking to me. I thought they blew up 50, Go-Fast boats and jet skis and stuff. What the hell's going on?
What our ancestors accomplished was.
Here's personally, right? If you're watching the news unfold here at the HasanAbi broadcast, you already knew what was happening and you already knew what was going to happen. Oh, my goat is on. Let's hear what he has to say.
Look, Netanyahu is quite free to do whatever he wants because his party and his coalition is very strongly behind him.
Goat
and
Dion
at least
Levy.
until the elections, he really can do whatever he wants. But he will face now also a major dilemma because if Donald Trump will really order him not to retaliate, he has to make his choice. Either he gets into a dispute with Trump, which, as we know, Trump is not someone you want to have a dispute with him, or he will be presented a few months before the elections as a chicken, as someone who is just a clerk of Donald Trump and has no say, no independent say. So you wouldn't like to be in his position. But the bottom line is that any reaction now of Israel might lead us to an overall war, and that's really the worst of all worlds.
Gideon, don't go anywhere. I just want to expand the conversation here. Joining us on set here in Doha is Al Jazeera's Osama bin Javed and Dania Dhafar. She's the executive director of the Gulf International Forum. Osama, obviously some furious diplomacy happening behind the scenes. From the Iranian perspective, these missiles have been fired. First, second, third barrage of missiles toward Israel. The Israelis are saying they've been shot down. From the Iranian perspective, if there is no response, is this over?
Well, you have to look at it as a whole, not just these incidents that are taking place. A condition of the ceasefire was, even before Kalibaf traveled to Islamabad, he said no talks without ceasefire in Lebanon. As he landed, the mediators were able to pull something out and say, well, the Israelis have promised they're going to concentrate on the south and will not attack Beirut. That is a red line that the Iranians were not willing. And they have been repeatedly saying this, that if you attack this, this is where everything else collapses. Donald Trump obviously does not want that. And all of the reporting, if that is true, he wants to de-escalate. From the Iranian perspective, right after this salvos of missiles have been fired, you're looking at all of these phone calls. There's a flurry of phone calls, not just with allies in the region, but beyond as well. The Turks, the Pakistanis, the UK, and
I literally went away for an hour. What happened?
Have been apprised of the situation.
Iran said LGBT, but the other kind.
Foreign Ministry. The idea is that they do not want this to escalate further again. They also want a ceasefire. They want the terms as they are dictating them. They do not want to budge on those terms because, as we've been discussing, that they want to have deterrence. They want the world, especially the United States and Israel, to know that, yes, you've attacked us first time when we went into the talks, second time into the talks, third time, if you are going to attack us again, here is a whole host of avenues that are available. And if you look at the threats that Iranians have been making, including Bab al-Mandeb, including Iraq, so far, you have to note that Iraq has not come into this sphere, and it can very well quickly come into this sphere as well. So there's multiple escalation avenues that Iran still has up its sleeve. It hasn't used all of those cards yet. But it appears that now, from the region and beyond, diplomacy is what is being pushed for. Again, we'll have to wait and see if this reporting is true. If Donald Trump is able to stop Benjamin Netanyahu from retaliating, this could be a good thing to get to accelerate the talks. But if not, this could again spiral out of control, and you could see an escalation where the Iranians have warned that all of the American interests in the region are fair game.
Dania, I just mentioned the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on the phone with the Turks, the Brits, and the Pakistanis. Who do you think that the Gulf countries are likely on the phone with or trying to reach at this hour?
Well, I think the Gulf countries are probably trying to engage with Iran. And also, I think if there is an opportunity, maybe Israel to try to calm things down, and especially talking to Trump to put pressure. But I think Trump is already interested in tempering down the situation and not escalating. I mean, I think I disagree with most of the views about Israel not striking back. I will be shocked if Israel does not hit Iran back. To me, I don't think that's even
a remote
an
possibility.
option. No, I mean, maybe they'll be more surgical because of what Trump is supposedly saying to Netanyahu. But I think that the cards are going to be in Iran's hands on how this escalate further.
Gideon, is there any chance that as a result of this, the situation on the ground in Lebanon changes and that the Israelis somehow changed their tactics in that country?
It might change, but not dramatically. Israel will not withdraw from southern Lebanon, and Israel will continue to act militarily in southern Lebanon. As about the attacks on the Dahia in Beirut, Israel claims that it was coordinated with the United States. The United States, as far as I heard, denies this. And that's a major point. Did Israel bomb in Beirut without notifying the Americans, without getting a permission? Because it is a violation, a clear violation of what was agreed between the United States and Israel, that Israel has a free hand more or less in the south of Lebanon, but not in Beirut. So altogether, we are really, you can take it to any possible direction in Lebanon and between Israel and Iran. The Middle East is now in a turning point, and nobody knows right now at this hour to which direction will it take.
Osama, would we be wrong in saying that Lebanon has not been high on the American priority list? And I say that only because Israel fired on and killed at least 3 Lebanese soldiers yesterday. There was no response.
Hold on. Barak Ravid is on CNN. Let's see what he has to say.
In order to strike Iran, especially if this is going to continue for a while. Israel needs air refueling. Israel needs operational coordination with U.S. forces. Israel needs help in search and rescue missions. Israel can go at it alone if it's a one-off, if it's 2 strikes. But if it's something that is going on now for a while, Israel needs U.S. assistance. And if President Trump will not give Netanyahu a green light, it will be very hard for Israel to go forward.
Well, then this is very complicated because it's difficult to know or even assess how will Netanyahu receive this phone call or this discussion from the president. Would he put himself in a position of negotiating with the United States president to try to convince him or tell President Trump the many reasons why it needs to follow through with its powerful response to Iran?
Yeah, and I think Benjamin Netanyahu finds himself in uncharted waters. He was never in such a position. The last time he was in something that was a bit similar was in April 2024 after Iran conducted a missile attack on Israel. The U.S., then the Biden administration and Israel defeated this massive missile attack from Iran. And then President Biden spoke to Netanyahu and told him, take the win. Don't even if you retaliate, do something that is proportionate. Don't escalate. And eventually Netanyahu decided to retaliate, but a very, very, very limited retaliation with 1 missile fired at 1 Iranian air defense battery. And he sort of took the win. It's an even more complicated situation because President Trump is telling him, don't retaliate at all. So I think Benjamin Netanyahu is in a very, very, very difficult situation right now.
Yeah, very. All right, we're going to continue this conversation into the next hour.
Doesn't have to be.
Ravid, thank you.
It doesn't have to be a very difficult situation. It can be a very simple situation as long as he was like, okay, I guess I am abiding by American restraint, American demands for restraint. We're packing it up. But he can't do that, right? He can't do that. So he has to He has to go nutty mode, doesn't he? Hasan, we are witnessing the contradictions between Trump's America First fascist bullshit being a cuck to capital in Israel. Yes. Yes. Every day that Israel gets to advance this agenda unimpeded. Hey, dude, just so you know, your Instagram DMs to Stephen Chung leaked? No. No. Oh, no. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of it, and neither should you be. Okay? I mean, look at him. Look at him. God, so beautiful. Yeah, you got to shoot your shot sometimes.
I must remind you that all what happened this evening was a total surprise in Israel. Total surprise. Nobody expected this.
Am I standing in the right
All right,
place?
that is Gideon Levy, a columnist with the Haaretz University, or the Haaretz newspaper, excuse me, in Tel Aviv. Gideon, we certainly appreciate your insight for us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is 2100 GMT and you're watching Al Jazeera. In the last 2 hours, Iran has launched a wave of missiles towards Israel. Sirens have sounded across the country with projectiles seen over northern Israel. The military says that it has intercepted all the missiles launched so far. But there are reports that further attacks are expected. Iran has warned that it will respond with, quote, greater force if Israel attacks it. Shortly after the attacks were launched, the spokesman of Iran's Central Command gave a video statement. Ibrahim Zolfagari said that the attack was in response to the Israeli strike on Beirut's southern suburb of Dahieh and accused the U.S. of giving Israel the green light for that strike.
Through its repeated violations of the ceasefire, the aggressive Zionist regime has continuously escalated its acts of aggression against the oppressed people of Lebanon. These actions have been carried out with the green light and support of the criminal United States and amid the silence of international community. By employing prohibited weapons, including phosphorus munitions, the regime has committed war crimes. Despite previous warnings issued by the Islamic Republic of the killing Zionist regime has crossed all red lines by intensifying its attacks in southern Lebanon and targeting Dahieh and the southern suburbs of Beirut. We had previously warned that if there were any crimes committed in Dahieh, we would...
Excuse me, sir. Do you know how anti-Semitic you're being by saying that the Zionist regime, Israel, kills children? Yes, they do kill children, but it hurts my feelings to hear that. I'll have you know, it's the only Jewish state in the world. How dare you say the only Jewish state in the world would ever commit atrocities like killing children, even if it actually is an atrocity that Israel, the only Jewish state in the world, has committed, as a matter of fact. It's really messed up that you would even bring that up. My feelings are hurt.
Fire. Tonight, we can report that Iran's foreign minister is speaking with regional counterparts about the situation
Democratic
right
too.
now. And the IDF spokesperson released a TV statement earlier today indicating that schools across Israel tomorrow will be closed. He said Iran is trying to create a new equation when it conducts direct fire on our territory. In response, the IDF will attack in relation to the current security protocol. And so, again, this is a political decision ultimately that will be made by
I think what they're going to do is try to punish Lebanon again or punish Gaza.
But the latest information,
if they do that, that means America is trying to restrain them. If they strike Iran, the war's back on probably.
To the IDF strikes on Hezbollah in southern Beirut earlier today, President Trump telling Fox News that he has a message for Iran. He says, you've shot your missiles. That's enough. Get back to the table and make a deal. Guys.
Trey Yingst, thank you so much as always.
Thank you.
All right, bringing it out to the table, Joey. From what we're hearing from Trey after he spoke with the president seems maybe a tad bit frustrated, and we know that this is...
You think they're sad that on the big weekend show they don't get to talk about me for once, for one Sunday? Because every single Sunday for the past 3 months, they've done a piece on how I'm, dangerous anti-Semite terrorist. Now they actually have to talk about the IRGC being a dangerous anti-Semite terrorist instead.
Before they come back and have serious talks What do you make of it?
I mean, it's absolutely an escalation by Iran. Iran can say it's because Israel is still fighting Hezbollah, which is kind of laughable considering just a few months ago Iran would have said they're not supporting Hezbollah, or at least not directly. But at the end of the day, we know that's true. We know that's where we are. And the ball's in President Trump's court. He understands what's at stake here. There's political collateral, then there's real people collateral. I don't think President Trump wants to see anybody die, much less Americans. But at the same time, you can't be President Trump that says, I'm going to carry a big stick and talk loudly and let Iran shoot missiles into, our military bases if that becomes what happens, and not do something about it. So the deterrence versus the defeat right now, it would take months or a year to defeat Iran's military completely. Can we do things to deter? Can we do diplomacy? President Trump sure is trying hard, but Iran's not making it easy.
Rachel, does the president move to do anything, though, militarily on behalf of or in coordination with Israel at this point? Or does the president seem more like he's going to let them deal with it and he's going to stay out of it? He mentioned to Trey that he wasn't a part of Israel's initiative. So perhaps,
in Lebanon, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
perhaps he leaves it to them and he still wants Iran to come back to the table. How do you see that playing out?
Well, if we take the president at his words, this week alone, he's not happy that Israel is bombing Lebanon, that this is actually hurting the negotiation. In fact, he said, quote, referring to the conversation where he called Benjamin Netanyahu crazy and said, everyone hates you, stop doing this. He said, quote, I was a little perturbed at his constantly fighting with Lebanon. So we have one front of a war. We've partnered with Israel in Iran. And perhaps the hope, I thought, was that the negotiation on that war was to get rid of the nuclear weapons, make sure they don't have that, and hopefully they can deal with Hezbollah through that negotiation. But if you keep bombing Lebanon and killing the Lebanese people, many of them are Christians, Christian villages are getting bombed, lots of bad stuff happening. Look, Hezbollah's hands are dirty in this for sure. And so is Iran, because Iran funds Hezbollah. At the same time, the Lebanese people, many innocent people, are being caught in the crossfire. So I think the best way is to get to the negotiating table, as the president said, okay, did your
I'm
box,
sorry,
let's all get
how
back.
dare you?
And hopefully the president can lead and end.
Bro, they'll get the updated talking points soon. Right now, they're speaking out against Israel's wishes. They'll probably get the updated talking points as soon as Trump gets the updated talking points. As soon as Israel basically violates Trump's demands, and then they'll be like, well, they had to do it.
Really entered into what is supposed to be a discussion between the United States and Iran. And of course, Israel's naturally going to be a part of that in some ways, but it feels like it's really shifted and recalibrated to be much more about what Israel is doing.
Yeah.
I don't know how that changes things for our president and our country, but how do you see this latest news playing out?
Well, negotiating with Iran means negotiating with Hezbollah or Hamas. They're just tentacles of them, proxies, as we call them. Some good news out of these strikes, there are only 4 missiles fired. And in the olden days, we're talking about before the U.S. went to war.
30 minutes of holy Toledo.
That tells you either Iran was trying to fire something that was symbolic, just to say, hey, we're firing back, haha, or they don't have the capability to do it. So all I know is that the Iron Dome...
guess what, by the way? The IRGC, Republic, are the only force in the region that's currently defending the Lebanese Christian population against Israel's attacks. Just for the record, I know they keep clarifying over and over again, oh, they're killing Lebanese Christians. If they were killing Lebanese Muslims, that's fine, but they're killing Lebanese Christians, that's not so fine. Yeah, well, okay. Well, Iran is defending those Lebanese Christians.
That's the calculus right now overall of where we are politically. And also, by the way, if gas prices have gone down 30 cents in the last 2 weeks, all right, that's good. If they go below $4 and back towards $3, that helps, obviously, Republicans in the midterms. If this thing lingers until September, October, then early voting starts, and we're still in the same place that we are now, right before the midterms, then Republicans have some big problems as far as winning those midterms.
So, I mean, Israel, so these rockets weren't fired towards U.S. troops. They were fired towards Israel, right? President Trump's shown his he's not happy with the fact that Israel was continuing its campaign against Lebanon, even in a ceasefire, or against Hezbollah, even in a ceasefire with Israel and Lebanon. We have to remember that Hezbollah is kind of an autonomous proxy within Lebanon, but like Rachel says, it's the Lebanese people that are caught in crosshairs. There's nothing here that says President Trump has retaliated at all. That's kind of what we're looking to see. Of course, President Trump wants to see all the missiles stop and actually move towards something that looks like peace. He needs that. But at the end of the day, it may be Iran trying to publicly sever the U.S. and Israel a little bit, and President Trump may be put in a situation where that's what he has to do. He has to say, we're not responding, they didn't fire on us, and we're trying to get a peace deal. If Israel wants to be a part of this peace deal, they've got to stop attacking Hezbollah. But at the same time, Bibi Netanyahu's sitting there in Israel, and he's got his own right that says, you're being a puppet of Trump. You're not finishing, you're not getting the win that you promised us because Trump's holding you back. And so there are a lot of tensions here. This is a complex thing. We knew that going into it. There are a lot of questions on why we went into it. These answers are to come, I believe. But between now and then, President Trump has one thing he has to do. He has to secure a victory with Iran other than opening the Strait of Hormuz. That's politically, that's what he has to do. Yeah. That victory can't be the Navy's at the bottom of the sea and they don't have an Air Force, because those weren't the things we were worried about to begin with. It has to do with their long-range ballistic missiles and their nuclear weapons capability. There has to be something tangible that you can show, and it has to be more than what Operation Midnight Hammer did. And I'm not saying those things aren't on the table or he's not getting there, but that's what the American people have an appetite for politically.
The problem, though, is that you go into a war with a partner and you think you have the same objective. And to be fair, I think at the beginning of the war, the president and I think everybody thought it was going to be a regime change, but very quickly you realized that was not going to be easy, and the president did the right thing. He adjusted. We want to make sure they don't have nukes. That will be good for us, and we can't have them controlling the Straits of Hormuz. But when your partner, Israel, they have a different objective. For them, what's best is no Iran or a regime change. And so that's the conflict, and that's the question. And I think overall, maybe it's time to think about, do you go into these kinds of conflicts when you have two different national security objectives? It complicates it. And not only are people dying in Lebanon, but the American people are being hurt by these gas prices. Yeah. So I think American objectives are the best for America, and that's what we ought to do.
Whoa. And I think President Trump knows that full well.
Wait a minute.
That's why he has the frustration. The American people are not going to continue to pay high gas prices. Although we love Israel, they're not going to be able to.
Wait, this is peak anti-Semitism. Do they know what they're saying? Are they aware of the words coming out of their mouths right now? This is unacceptable.
It's still continuing to count votes as residents anxiously await.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. This paired up with like the New York Times trifecta actually make me feel like there is a different approach to Israel that's incoming, potentially. Now, why am I saying that? Okay. New York Times on their front page had 3 separate news stories that directly criticized Israel and named Israel in its criticism. Okay? Very different attitude. No neutrality. No, Palestinians die. No Lebanese child died style articles. Just straight up directly saying Israel kills a Lebanese child, right? Israel kills a child in Lebanon. I think it was in Lebanon, right? This is a very big change of pace. This is a very big change of attitude. It's a very big change of pace from the way that they normally cover it. Does anyone have that tweet? I'm trying to find it right now. In Hebron, in the West Bank. But then there was also another attack that took place in Lebanon as well, and they wrote that as well. What is this? There was also their marquee coverage on Israeli spying, Israel's installation of spyware on American envoy phones and also American military official phones as well. Oh, here, this is it. This is what I was looking for. Thank you. Quite the combination of headlines on the New York Times website tonight. Pentagon sees growing espionage threat from Israel. Israeli strike kills 3 Lebanese soldiers days after truce was signed. Infant killed as Israeli military fires on car in West Bank, Palestinian officials say. Now, obviously, on that last one, they're still using somewhat of a neutral language. Like they're making it seem like, this infant was caught in the crossfires or something, as though like the Israeli military didn't like directly fire upon this car and killed the baby, which is exactly what happened. But even then, the trifecta of these three articles above the fold, Israeli strike kills 3. What visual evidence tells us about Israel's use of white phosphorus in Lebanon is interesting. AIPAC has obviously been losing its fucking mind over it. White House official, this entire story is false and sources someone who doesn't have any knowledge of what's going on. So that's big. That makes that offers additional context to the way that Fox News is talking about Israel right now as well.
Ready to make, even if we get through this one, I suspect you're going to have another round of some escalation. Either this is going toward escalation or toward a period in which diplomacy will take over and there'll be a fair amount of de-escalation because the two sides will reach some sort of an agreement. And in a way, it's on two parallel but connected tracks, which are now running. The real question is which one is going to overtake the other? The negotiations for the possibility of a broader agreement, or this tit for tat that's going to end up escalating ultimately in a major resurgence of conflict between Iran and the United States. We're not there yet. I think in the next 48 hours, it'll be clear if that's where we're going or not.
Right. And so setting that table and knowing where we are at this moment and knowing that the next 48 hours are critical, it would seem to me, based on what you're saying, what our correspondents are saying, that this phone call with Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump seems to be the next big piece of this that's going to determine what happens next.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. And again, they've maintained an uneasy partnership. The relationship, I think, is clearly instrumental. Both are adept in the art of the con. They're both very skilled politicians. They've used one another effectively. Netanyahu, clearly, for political reasons in Israel, where Trump is more popular than he is. And Trump has brandished his pro-Israeli credentials while demonstrating when it matters to him, as it did in October, right? After the Israelis struck Hamas's external leadership in Doha, he told the prime minister, "You take my 20-point plan," or quote, Barak Ravid reported, we will walk away from you. So Netanyahu, his political requirements will supersede his need right now to demonstrate his toughness. He cannot cross Trump if he wants to maintain his political salience. If he does, Netanyahu is very vulnerable, and those vulnerabilities leading up to a September, most likely an October election, are going to increase exponentially. He can't afford a bad call, Jess.
Dude, Channel 14 diplomatic correspondent. Nothing would increase the chance of a deal with Iran more than a powerful joint strike by Israel and the U.S. tonight. Unfortunately, the likelihood of that seems negligible. Oh my God, dude. Oh my fucking God. They're such little babies. They're like petulant children. It's crazy.
100 days. What could they look like for the next 100? We'll break that down.
That's taken. Flex. IDF spokesperson Brigadier General Effie Defrin says the IDF is ready both defensively and offensively. Yeah, notice how everyone instantly admits that a phone call from the president could shut everything down from Israel. I thought Biden was powerless when that happened. Yeah, I saw Alonso's take on it. He said, kudos to Hasan the Hun for managing to remain calm in front of an honestly unrecognizable and uncharacteristically angry Louis Goodall as he goes through every single tired pro-Israel talking point to the point of Loki justifying the UK ban and, to be honest, putting words in his mouth. Louis Goodall is a good journalist. I listen to his work at LBC and his podcast often, so hopefully he doesn't block me, but this was not his best work. Truly felt like he was in a 1996 mindset and seemingly frustrated that Hasan the Hun was not an unhinged ideologue. What is this, BB?
Who's we?
Americanitz is back. Americanitz is back online, folks. Israel bombing Lebanon out of frustration already? Of course. I told you. I fucking told you. See? Breaking. 5 new Israeli attacks reported in Yatar Valley area in Lebanon in the Bint Jbeil district with the Nabateh governorate of southern Lebanon. I'm telling you, this means that they recognize that they have to be restrained by America. They're not doing Beirut, but they're hitting southern Lebanon. They're not hitting Beirut, but they're hitting southern Lebanon. This is classic Israel, okay? That's why I said they're either going to hit southern Lebanon or they're going to hit Gaza or something, because that's all they do. All they do is when they're when they have to when they are experiencing any kind of restraint from the American side, they just unload on defenseless populations elsewhere. They used to do this during the genocide all the fucking time. Wake up and smell the coffee. The corrupt Ottoman Empire is gone forever. Jerusalem, D.C., David's capital, shall remain the eternal capital of Israel. Okay. I don't like that they're coming after the Ottoman Empire like this. I'll tell you that. What is this? Dude, I saw you peep my logs before you made that comment, and credit where credit is due. What's the log in the comment? What? Even Money says Israel does a kick the puppy retaliation and escalates against Lebanon without retaliating on Iran. Yeah, anarchy and Tylenol. I think you should have not consumed as much Tylenol if you think that I got the idea that Israel always hits the most vulnerable targets from you. Okay? Less Tylenol for you, I think. The Iranian terrorist regime made a grave mistake by choosing terrorism once again. Yeah, it's only terrorism when Iran does it in retaliation to Israel's totally moral and democratically organized actions. We struck in Dahia, Beirut's southern suburbs, following Hezbollah's relentless fire towards northern communities. The IDF will continue to operate in Lebanon. We will not allow continued fire towards Israeli territory. We're prepared for the possibility of additional fire towards Israel. Iran's foreign minister speaks with France and Qatar on response to Israeli violations in Lebanon. Iranian foreign minister, bro, at a certain point, you got to recognize that the only country in this region that has any fucking real sovereignty and any real investment in defending other countries, not just themselves, but defending other countries as well, is the Islamic Republic. Straight up. Where is everybody else? Where's France? France is supposed to have some kind of like colonialist interest over Lebanon, right? Like they're a French-speaking population. What are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? What the hell is going on here? Everybody else gave up. Everybody else gave up. They are doing nothing. No restraints whatsoever on Israel. They get to do whatever the fuck they want to do. The magnitude of what just happened may take some time to sink in. This is the first time Iran has struck Israel after Israel struck another country's territory that is not Iran. Yes, that's also very important. Trita is right. This means that the battle lines have been moved. Iran's deterrence had already been restored in the sense that Israel knew that any strike on it would be responded to. But now Iran has proven that it will also respond to Israeli strikes on Lebanon. This is the first time in decades that a regional power has the means, capacity, and willingness to put hard power against Israeli military maneuvers or aggression against a third party. Iran is the only willing Israel's expansion. This is the reason why Israel wants to destroy Iran, wants to get the U.S. to try and destroy Iran. New spicy take to piss off liberals and make them think unlocked. I mean, it's true. That is some form of irony. They started all this to make Iran weaker, but have only made it more powerful as a regional actor. Yes, they forced Iran's hand. They forced Iran's hand to do anything about it. They were clearly not interested in doing anything up until this moment. They were engaging in strategic restraint, and now they've moved on to strategic deterrence. And in the process of engaging in strategic deterrence, they've shown how much more. Oh fuck! Never mind. This might be another fuck HasanAbi moment from Tommy.
Weapon, but to get to where we need to be, it's going to have to get a lot more ugly than it is right now.
Adrian, domestically, what is the president looking at as we head into these midterms? Because we have the gas prices, which have obviously been affected by this war, that they would like to see come down. You have a broadly unpopular war based on poll after poll that we get with the American people. The president had promised no new wars. As David notes, his explanation has been that he doesn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but at this point it's unclear if that's going to be the outcome of this agreement or not. Democrats, this war powers resolution again and again. Where are Democrats in all of this, and where do you think the president is domestically?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of things to unpack here. I mean, number one, I think a lot of Americans don't understand, Jessica, why we are in this war in the first place. President Trump gave what he wanted to give, which was the longest State of the Union address ever. 108 minutes. He spent 3 minutes of that address talking about Iran, and then several days later goes in and attacks. U.S. making the first strike. So a lot of people still don't really understand why we're in this war in the first place. What they do understand is every time they go to the gas pump to put gas in their car, gas prices are significantly higher than they were a week before, 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, and certainly 6 or 7 months ago. And Donald Trump knows that going into the midterms, if gas prices are high, his party is going to have a worse time in the midterms than they would traditionally. Obviously, Jessica, any party that's currently in control, the opposite party tends to do better in the midterms. But when you layer on high gas prices, a war that many Americans, including a lot of independents, by the way, don't understand why we're in this war in the first place, layering on the affordability issue. If you're the average ordinary voter and you're looking at the big picture here, you're saying, is this guy actually trying to fight for me? Or is he more concerned about our foreign adversaries and trying to figure out, how to make things in his mind better on the foreign affairs front as opposed to the domestic front? So there's a lot to unpack. But the bottom line is just, even if this war were to end today, which is David very succinctly laid out, it's not going to. But even if it was, we're still going to have gas prices at very high rates by the time the election goes around. Donald Trump knows this, and I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing him sound and appear more erratic as of late, because he can't end this war and he wants to.
And David, I've had some Republicans that I've talked to and interviewed say, listen, yeah, gas prices are high, but they're lower than that at certain points in the Biden administration, that during the Trump administration, they came down, which they did come down. That was a real selling point.
Who is saying that in America? Are you talking to Donald Trump himself?
And they make the case that there are good parts of this economy, like this jobs report that we just saw very recently. But at the same time, you run into
who the fuck
kind of a dynamic.
Is under the illusion that shit's fine. I don't think most Trump supporters even think it's fine. The only people that are saying things are fine, you need to shut the fuck up, is like Mark Levin.
Feel that.
Because they're like, no matter what the cost is to the American working class, it's still valid because at least we're doing Israel's bidding.
Adrian is correct. You have to, I think the Trump administration, the president on down, need to do a better job of explaining what we're doing in the Middle East and why, right? Nobody, the three of us I know are old enough to remember what it felt like on September 12th, the day after the attacks on the World Trade Center. And this president, I think, should have laid out more forcefully that he's trying to make sure that we never have that feeling here in our guts, in our hearts, and our souls in this country again. And we cannot allow the theocracy in Iran to possess a nuclear weapon.
Oh my God.
They may, at some point, one of their proxies or themselves may try to do something.
There's only one theocratic ethno-state that has nuclear arms in the region and is belligerent, and that is not Iran, it's Israel, okay? And that theocratic governance is also quite literally a Nazi ethno-state. Iran is far more diverse than Israel is, and its minority rights are far more intact, at least on ethnic boundaries, as opposed to how Israel treats Palestinians. Okay.
Gas prices are basically end up being a tax on everything, right? So you need gas in the truck that takes the groceries to the grocery store, or picks up eggs from the farmer. Even though egg prices are at an all-time low right now, interestingly, but people do feel it. They feel it at home, Jess, and you're right. You've got to. They have to be optimistic about the future of the country. And right now,
you thought you were listening on audio only? You thought I was watching Fox? No, Fox is actually more woke and more critical of Israel somehow today.
They're high, but not as high. But they got down into the twos during the Trump administration, and people were very excited about that. So they're back up there. Summer months are coming. People are going to feel it when they travel. So I think the administration needs to do a good job of explaining what they're doing and trying to say, stick with us. Better things are on the way. If you vote for the Democrats, things are going to get much worse. I think they're going to need to make that case forcefully in these coming next few months.
And Adrian, just lastly to you, on that point that David was making, are the Democrats doing enough, do you think, politically, to capitalize on this moment? And what would you like to see them doing in the next several months to get that message across to voters effectively?
I mean, Jess, it's a great question. I mean, first of all, Democrats, let's keep in mind, have no power in Washington right now. I mean, we don't have the House, we don't have the Senate. Trump rules the White House. So MAGA effectively rules Washington, D.C. at the federal level. Now, obviously, we've got governors who are very effective messages for the Democratic Party. They're going out there, they're talking about the affordability issue. They're trying to find solutions in their own states to try to mitigate some of these high gas prices and trying to make prices lower for groceries and everyday items that families need to live on. I will say, Jess, at the federal level, I would like to see my fellow Democrats who are sitting in elected office be a little bit more forthcoming with what our plan would be when we take back the House and when we might possibly take back the Senate. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion, I think, at this point, that Democrats are going to win back control of the House of Representatives. But what is that forward-looking plan? What is that plan that on day one, when Democrats get more power in Washington, what is the plan that we're going to implement that is going to lower prices for the American people, that is going to protect democracy going into the 2020 elections, 2028 elections, that we have free and fair elections? What is that plan? Because right now, I think that's what the American people are looking for. They know that Donald Trump has his issues. They know that he tends to self-implode from time to time, but they don't know at the same time what the Democrats are going to do for them. And I think that's one of the reasons why our party brand is a little underwater right now. But I think as we get close to the midterms, that those points will be more clear, because people are looking for a change.
Adrian's a great spokesperson, but she has to admit that Orange Man Bad, which has been that's been the theory, the case for Democrats, doesn't sell. And currently there is no plan for the Democrats. That's why they're kind of in the wilderness. There is not one spokesman. There's not one. The current spokesman for the party seems to be, this rape fantasizing Nazi creep in Maine, Graham Plattner, that everybody's rallying around. Who made the only way that Graham Plattner
You're literally a fucking general, dude. What are you saying? Dog, shut the fuck up.
He's currently the kind of the leader of the party. Everyone's running to Maine to rally around Graham Plattner.
So, David.
I'll
let Adrian have the last word on this. Wait, hang on. I'll let Adrian, you can answer to that, because I do think there are a lot of questions about Graham Plattner representing the Democratic Party in Maine. And if you think that is the right person to be representing the Democratic Party there.
Look, that's what we'll find out on Tuesday. The elections, the primary election is on Tuesday. We will see. We will let the Maine voters decide there. I actually think that Graham Plattner has been an effective messenger in terms of getting some of the constituents that we've.
Did we lose Adrian? I think we lost her. Okay. All right. Well, David Urban, Adrian Elrod, we will leave it there. Technical difficulties. Thank you to both of you. We really appreciate it. Stay with CNN. Our breaking news coverage out of the Middle East continues as Iran fires a wave of ballistic missiles at Israel. We will have an update for you when we come back.
Dude, that's so fucking annoying.
Actors on Actors, now streaming on the CNN app.
Never mind. David Urban is not a general. David Urban was in the military too, though. He was an artillery officer. Again, he drops all of that shit, though. Like, what were your homies saying? What was the language that your fucking homies were using? What was the language you were using when you were an artillery officer in the United States Army's 101st Airborne Division, serving from 1986 to 1991? While serving in the Persian Gulf, you were awarded the Bronze Star Medal. What kind of language were you fucking using, bitch?
The regime has committed war crimes.
Anyway, we've already seen this multiple times at this point. New York Times PR responded to AIPAC. The Times article is based on a recent U.S. intelligence report and other information provided by American officials. We're confident in the accuracy of our journalism. Interesting. Israeli platforms. Some of the language coming out of Israeli platforms tonight. Beirut must burn tonight, otherwise we are in trouble. A sovereign state cannot accept a situation where it is attacked with 4 barrages and does not respond. Another routine day in Israel, 2 more soldiers buried, a deadly attack in the heart of the country, Hezbollah firing towards the settlements, an extensive missile fire from Iran. The people of Israel are waiting for a tweet from Trump to get an update as usual. Oh shit, they're starting to get mad at Trump. They think Trump is holding them back. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, they are mad at Trump. Oh, I fucking, yeah, I used to pray for times like this, dude. Holy shit. Perfect, dude. That's so fucking perfect. What is this? Shahed 136 drones were also launched. They should arrive in the next hours if they make it through the different layers of air defense systems in Iraq or Jordan. Anyway, let's see one analysis from Esfandiar, Batman Kılıç, who wrote this 3 days ago and recently said this is test one. Tonight was about test one. Let's take a look. He's an analyst. He says, Iran has included 3 important tests within the terms of the MOU it is negotiating with the United States. These tests are intended to give Iran's leaders confidence that Trump, a counterparty they see as highly unreliable, is ready to make credible commitments, opening a pathway for further diplomacy. First, the Iranians are testing the credibility of American security commitments by insisting that the MOU encompasses a Lebanon ceasefire. They are not doing this for the sake of Hezbollah or Lebanese Shias. Rather, they want to see if Trump can restrain Israel in its own backyard. I've also made this exact same analysis. I've also said this exact same thing, and it's probably the most reliable part of the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, because it's the one that is the most difficult to achieve, given the American attitude towards Israeli belligerence has been maximalist support since the first Trump administration, only escalated after October 7 with the Biden administration, and Donald Trump has certainly never really restrained Israel at all. All of the quote-unquote fake restraints that you have seen from both the Biden administration that have been violated over and over again, all the red lines, and the Trump administration have been theater, okay? It's theater. It's pure theater. Even when Trump was like, oh, I told the I told the Israeli Air Force to come back. If you recall, this was not in Epstein's fury, but this was in the previous engagements that they had. That was all theater. It's all bullshit. They have been letting Israel do whatever the fuck it wants, as evidenced by the fact that Israel now occupies a larger share of Lebanese territory than they did, or close to the 1982 invasion, right? All of that happened with America allowing Israel, with America's allowance, right? So it's important to recognize that. Iran wants to see if America will restrain Israel. Iran wants America to commit to restraining Israel. It's an important muscle that they want to flex. This will show how much leverage Iran truly has over Israel. And obviously, America has not done so in good faith, because the fact that Iran has abided by the standards of a ceasefire far better than Israel has shows that America sees Iran coming to terms with the ceasefire as weakness, right? If Trump is able to do that, though, he might be able to defend his own deal with Iran from Israeli sabotage. Second, Iran is insisting on a nominal fee for vessels passing the Strait of Hormuz. This is not because they want more revenue, which would be negligible. They are insisting on this arrangement because they want to test whether Trump will endorse a deal that includes clear instantiation of Iranian sovereignty and authority, especially one that did not exist before the war. Iran believes in the logic of a win-win agreement. Trump does not. Forcing him to accept a fee forces him to give Iran a win and defend it as such from the Iran hawks in his circle. This is politically meaningful. Agreed. Finally, Iran is insisting on a release of frozen assets. This sums in question are a tiny fraction of the economic cost of the war, and the release of assets is not as valuable as the sanctions relief that Iran will also be targeting. But by insisting on the release of funds at an early stage of the negotiations, Iran can test whether the broader economic commitments, such as sanctions relief, will be credible if Trump's sanctions bureaucracy allows Iran to move and spend its own money. Okay? Dude, Israel turning on Trump terrifies me. It shouldn't. It should excite you. The fuck do you mean? Sometimes you got to exhaust the contradictions to a final end, okay? Straight up. This is not, I mean, it's scary, certainly, as far as the human cost, but we could potentially find out who's the big boss in the room. I still believe it's America. Perhaps I'm foolish, but of course I still maintain the position that America is the big boss in the room. It's totally ridiculous. Over under on Samson option? No, I don't. No, guys, I don't think Israel is going to nuke the world because they didn't get their fucking wishes across. Maybe a very different Israel 20 years down the line that's like controlled by a million Itamar Ben-Gvirs, certainly. But it happening now under a more restrained, which is crazy to say, I know, but a far more restrained force that still wants to maintain some semblance of allegiance and some semblance of influence in the Western world is not going to fucking do that. Jeb Bush level take Wait, what? I mean, who knows? I've gotten some of this stuff wrong in the past because some of these countries are truly insane. Too much charitability to your enemies as always. I'm not being charitable at all. You saying this because you know Israel nukes Jericho's can't, but as our friend Trita Parsi aptly put, Israel also got the Dolphin system from Germany. So shouts out to Germany for that, which means that their nuclear strike capabilities are actually beyond the Jericho systems, which means that they can hit anywhere around the planet they want to, including but not limited to California. Good job, Germany. Anyway, the insistence on releasing of funds at the early stages of negotiations is to establish trust and trust America, because America, the American side, given the fact that they've lost this war, has to actually eat some dick. Okay, America has to kind of eat it a little bit, because if they don't do that, if they don't fucking do that, then they can't ever trust the American side to engage in a MOU or a ceasefire in any way, shape, or form. It's that simple. Iran will only consider the promise of sanctions relief to be credible if Trump's sanctions bureaucracy allows Iran to move and spend its own money. For many in Washington, these demands seem unreasonable, but that is entirely the point. Iran's leadership won't tolerate a kind of narrow deal that allows U.S. policymakers to avoid putting political capital at stake. Iran wants a deal that reflects the unprecedented nature of war and ensuing crisis. To meet the moment, the diplomacy has to be transformative. Iran's leaders don't trust Trump, so they're testing him. So far, he's failing these tests. 100% agreed. The problem is any kind of deal making, any kind of deal making from the Iranian side, like any kind of investment in deal making from the Iranian side, is seen as weakness from the Trump side, which is a huge problem. So that's why they have to do stuff like this by, striking Israel to force the American hand into restraining Israel. Otherwise, they're going to have to go back to war. They don't have the standoff munitions any longer. They don't even have the defensive. Israel doesn't have the defensive capabilities. They don't have the defensive munitions. And America's defensive munitions are also depleted. And there is no appetite from the Gulf nations to continue this war and to get pummeled by Iranian missiles again. The American side has made that analysis and recognized that the Iranian offensive capabilities have not deteriorated in the way that they claimed it had. So what are you supposed to do? Going back to the apex of Operation Epic Fury would be unbelievably costly for Israel, the Gulf nations, and also the United States of America. So they don't want to disrupt the presence of a ceasefire from their own perspective. But Trump, on the one hand, has to recognize this, but also on the other hand is an idiot who believes that any kind of investment in a ceasefire from the Iranian side is a show of weakness.
Of Donald Trump to continue the conversation, to continue the talks, and probably to sign a deal in the next few days. So Iran is bracing, in response to your question, to any strikes from Israel, and they say that when they happen, then the next phase of strikes from Iran against Israel will be more devastating.
Al Jazeera's Mohammed Val in Tehran, thank you very much. So we go to the Lebanese capital. Ali Hashem is there. Ali, you heard Mohammed saying that Iran's warning to Israel was related to Lebanon. And indeed, if you look at this, if you analyze this, all roads for what's happened this evening lead to Lebanon. Iran says that it attacked Israel because of what it is doing against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel, of course, has been pounding southern Lebanon and earlier today attacked the Lebanese capital, Beirut. The U.S. president was personally involved in trying to stop a similar attack in Beirut a week ago. So you've got at least 3 regional powers, I'm including U.S. in that list, that are heavily invested in what happens in Lebanon. How is all of this going to be perceived where you are?
Well, indeed, what we are seeing, and Lebanon being the ground zero of this escalation, Israel wanted by this attack today noon to emphasize that it doesn't want Iran to link Lebanon to any kind of equations in the region. And this backfired in a way, whereas Iran now is linking it directly by retaliating, as they promised before, in defense of Beirut's southern suburb. And now they're adding another condition that Israel should not attack South Lebanon and Beirut's southern suburb. Now, during the past hour, there have been several Israeli airstrikes in different areas in South Lebanon, in Seksakiya, Ain Qana, and also we've heard of Hezbollah attacking Israeli troops on the ground. So for the war here, it's business as usual. For the wider confrontation, it's not only about missiles and planes, it's also about who is pushing forward and who is trying to impose their own leverage on the ground. And this is actually a kind of a struggle of wills between Israel and Iran. Of course, the United States here seems to be wanting this to be contained at any price. However, there are many reasons not to believe that containment is possible, or at least it's very unlikely.
What is this? You keep Hezbollah equals Iran. You keep quoting alt-right opinions from Israel to showcase a false reality where Israel is much more radical than it is. Dog, what the fuck are you talking about? False reality? Israel, here's the actual reality. The public is in support of Israel's genocide of the Palestinians. The public is in support of Israel's genocide of the Lebanese population that's currently taking place. The public is always in support. The public is always in support of Israel's further military incursions. It doesn't fucking matter what the far right of the Israeli government is saying as opposed to the rest of the Israeli government. Ultimately, they are a coalition. Okay? The fuck? You're making Israel look bad by what, dude? Pointing to fucking Itamar Ben-Gvir's statements? Wow, how fucked up. Yeah, Israel defends itself militarily as well. Yeah, notice how it's always Israel defending itself militarily by taking over additional territory and murdering children wholesale. Wholesale slaughter, industrial scale slaughter of children. That's the only way Israel knows how to defend itself. Yeah, get the fuck out of here, dude. Yeah, oh yeah, they did a defensive genocide in Gaza. They're doing a defensive colonial incursion into Lebanese territory right now. Yeah, the reason why you're offended by this is because maybe you don't want to admit this, but that's what your government is fucking doing if you're Israeli. There are plenty of Israelis in here too, by the way, and they don't fucking defend the Israeli government. You have an issue with the truth. You don't have an issue with my statements because my statements reflect the truth. So you got to fucking work on it on your own. No, that's not the only way. Okay. What has this guy said in the past? Israel attack of Beirut was fairly base, to be honest. least genocidal Israel supporter in the chat. So you do agree with the far right elements in Israeli society. Well, point proven. Channel 14 is an alt-right network. Why are you covering it? Bro, you can't cover Channel 14 news, alt-right in Israel, as if it's Israel's position. The Beirut attack was against the headquarters against them. Isn't that rightful enough? No, it's not. It's not actually. No, I don't think Israel has any right to even fucking... I'll say this clearly. Israel has no right to occupy Lebanon. Israel doesn't have a right to kill the people that are defending Lebanon, which is Hezbollah. Okay. So yeah, no, Israel doesn't have a right to do any of that shit. You can fucking cope and cry and say Channel 14 is like far right in Israeli society, but then you also agree with the statements coming from the far right of Israeli society, and then you act like there's a real point of divergence here, like as though you have some real significant difference in opinion. I don't know what Channel 14's take on I don't know, gay people are or whatever, but we're talking about Israeli foreign policy. And foreign policy is completely unified on more and more Israeli belligerence. No, I don't. No, that's not the only way. I really do hear your shit. It was. No, I don't. Sure, I agree partly, but Hezbollah is a rightful target. Okay. If your dad is serving in the IOF, is he a rightful target? Stupid, man. If Hezbollah is a rightful target, the entirety of Israel is a righteous target. You understand that, right? So now you arrive at this weird position. The only reason why you could have this inconsistent standard, for the record, is because no one had the military capacity or the willingness to do to Israel what Israel has done to other countries. Okay? Now you do have a country that's willing to do to Israel in a very limited manner what Israel, not even Not even remotely close to what Israel's done to other countries, let's be real. But now you have marginal retaliation, and it causes you to fucking freak out. Same with Hezbollah. But Hezbollah, maybe that's why they defend themselves. Why does Hezbollah exist? Hezbollah exists because of the previous Israeli incursions into Lebanon. That's why it exists. Previous Israeli involvement, fomenting sectarian conflict inside of Lebanon, drawing up a Lebanese civil war, and putting their thumb on the scale on the side of the phalanges that were fucking mass slaughtering the Shia militias, invading Lebanon militarily. Of course, some kind of militant resistance is going to form to defend the Lebanese territories as a consequence of Israel's belligerence. If Hezbollah's intentions were solely defending the innocent, then we're talking about a different... No, you don't get to make that fucking assessment, okay? You don't get to... Hezbollah is a fanatic proxy that wants Israel to be demolished. It's a rightful enemy. Brother, if Israel doesn't want countries or paramilitary groups in the region to want it to be demolished, it shouldn't do things that it has been doing for the past 80 fucking years. You think it's rightful. I don't. You have to explain to me why you think it's appropriate. Okay? Hezbollah is a political party that operates within the Lebanese parliament. Just because Israel and the United States of America and all the other puppies of Zionism have decided that Hezbollah is bad and wrong because it militarily fights back against Israel as a part of the axis of resistance doesn't mean that that is an accurate assessment. Terrorism is a vague definition, a vague standard applied to deny habeas corpus and to justify death and destruction and collateralize all the other people that happen to be a part of this sect, okay? All the other civilians that die alongside what they have decided is a terror cell. That's all terrorism is about, okay? That's all this designation is about. If we're going to have a serious conversation about whether the Lebanese population, the Shia militias, have a right to defend the Lebanese homeland, we can have a conversation about that. But I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to defend the argument there. Same thing goes for the Palestinian resistance in its entirety, from Hamas all the way down to PFLP, DFLP, and even former Fatah militias that also worked in tandem with Hamas. Hamas is just a banner carrier, the modern iteration of the Palestinian resistance. That's all it is. Their political perspectives beyond the end of the occupation is utterly immaterial in this process. You can say, oh, they're fanatic, but it doesn't really fucking matter. Same with Hezbollah. The reason why Israel opposes Hezbollah and wants to kill as many Lebanese people as possible, including as many Hezbollah militia members as possible, is not because they're Islamist or something. They're doing, first of all, that wouldn't even be a just cause for Israel. We don't get to just murder people that we disagree with politically. They're doing that because they're a military force that is capable of restraining Israel militarily. They're a military force that is a resistance force that stops Israel from engaging Lebanon militarily, because the Lebanese standing military is nothing. Okay? And this is not like a regular military either. The Israeli occupying forces are, occupying illegally the West Bank. They've hermetically sealed. What is this? They want to take, if Hezbollah is... You think Hezbollah solely is not all that? They want Jerusalem. Hamas is not innocent, fam. They want a Muslim Al-Quds. They want Jerusalem. Buddy. What these militia groups want, whatever you're claiming their aspirations are also immaterial. Okay? They fight for Islam. Man, shut the fuck up. Israel doesn't fight for Judaism, Islam, you fucking idiot. Hezbollah is a Shia militia force. Why are they defending the largely Sunni Muslim population of Palestinians and the Christian population of Palestinians? Why is Hezbollah as a Shia militia force defending Lebanese Christians, for example? Again, you have once again shown your perspective is not different than the Channel 14 guys. Remember, because the enemy of your enemy is your temporary friend. Oh, most progressive Israeli chatters. There you go. Here you go. Do you understand? This is why there is genuinely, bruv, they're genocidal as fuck. What are you talking about? Hamas is genocidal? Hezbollah is genocidal? As opposed to Israel. Israel is not genocidal. All of the military forces that have been forced to exist, forced to develop, all of the military resistance, all the militant resistance against Israel's genocidal actions, against Israel's apartheid, Also, Channel 14 is genocidal. Buddy, we're not talking about a fucking television channel. We're talking about the Israeli government. We're talking about Zionism. Zionism is a definitionally genocidal ideology, okay? So much so that former and maybe even current Zionist Israeli Jewish historians are finally coming to terms with that reality, right? Even they are now saying like, oh, Zionism wasn't initially genocidal from its inception, but now it's becoming genocidal. Zionism isn't a genocidal ideology at root. Yeah, check back with me in fucking 10 years when you talk about how horrible this experience was and how you actually did resist against the more genocidal ambitions of the Israeli state when you lie to yourself and your children if you're ever, get to repopulate. One day, everyone will have been against this. You yourself as well. I mean, look at fucking Omer Bartov. It took Omer Bartov far too long to finally acknowledge as a very important Holocaust scholar to recognize Israel was doing a genocide. It took him an even additional year on top of that to finally come to terms with the ideology of Zionism being the underpinning ideology that allowed this genocide to take place, where he basically said Zionism is now evolving into a genocidal ideology. The reality of the matter is Zionism always was a genocidal ideology because it always revolved around ethno-religious supremacist values. It was always a fascist ideology, and early Jewish thinkers recognized it for what it was. They criticized it, but it didn't matter. The scar of the Holocaust was far too great, so many people turned a blind eye to the genocidal ethnic cleansing actions, genocidal actions of the early Zionist brigades. What? Zionism isn't genocidal. Israel has to exist. No, there is no such thing, by the way. There is no such thing. Okay? Did Nazi Germany have to exist? Did apartheid South Africa have to exist? Did the Confederacy have to exist? Did they have a right to exist to maintain chattel slavery? No, of course not. And neither does Israel in the current genocidal apartheid regime that exists. It's ridiculous. It's fucking bullshit. I'm not even making like the whole, theoretical argument about whether nation states have a right to exist. Like it's already stupid to begin with. Sad thing is this guy's the average liberal left guy in Israel, unfortunately. That's what I'm saying. You have no difference in opinion than the fucking Channel 14 people that you oppose when it comes to Israeli foreign policy. That's what we are identifying here, and it hurts your feelings to be painted with such a broad brush. So what you have to do in this circumstance is to reconsider your positions about Israeli violence, about Israel, the Israeli government's actions in Lebanon, in Gaza, against Iran, its demands, its endless demands to destroy every other fucking sovereign nation in the region that could potentially prove as a safeguard against the Greater Israel Project. That's what you have to realize. That's what you have to recognize, okay? It's your problem. It's not our problem. The rest of the world has already recognized this reality. But the unfortunate problem is that there are still people who say dumb fucking bullshit like this. Ben-Gvir doesn't represent Israel. The Israeli... Or no, never mind. Sorry, this guy's making a joke about, author of Reading Lolita in Tehran. Netanyahu's government doesn't represent Israelis. Yeah. Ben-Gvir doesn't represent Israel. The Israeli government doesn't represent Israel. Poles don't represent Israel. Israelis on social media don't represent Israel. The only thing that represents Israel, C-list celebs who took a trip to Tel Aviv and now understand the Middle East. And even then, when they say unbelievably unhinged and genocidal things, okay, then they don't represent Israel. Israel is what we decide at any given moment. It's changeable. Sometimes it's small bean. Sometimes it's the most safe place for Jews. Sometimes it's the least safe place for Jews. And therefore, it has to be fucking genocidal. Okay? Does anybody know what Israel is supposed to fucking represent? I think we've all seen what Israel actually represents. Okay? Which is a belligerent, genocidal, apartheid nation that is willing to destroy the entire fucking planet's energy markets in an effort to achieve one of its military objectives of destroying the only sovereign nation in the region, Iran, from being a military deterrence against their Greater Israel Project. That's it. You can sit around and say, oh, that's anti-Semitic. It's just the fucking reality. And if you choose to not reckon with this reality and to change your mentality, then you're participating in the fucking belligerence. Yeah. Greater Israel is an alt-right Israeli opinion. Israel has no intent. Yeah, just like liberal Zionists for years and years said, oh, we hate the West Bank settlers. Oh, we hate it. It doesn't represent the government's position at all. While simultaneously, the government was offering material support to the settlers and expanded the West Bank operations to the tune of 750,000 settlers that destroyed what remains of a fucking could be given to the Palestinians as it was intended by international law. Okay? What are we doing? It's always fucking speaking out of two sides of your goddamn mouth at the same time. West Bank is in Greater Israel. It doesn't matter if it's a part of Greater Israel or not, you fucking idiot. What matters is what's happening. What matters is what's happening. And what's happening is that Israel has destroyed any hope of a two-state solution. Oh my God, the West Bank is out of the Greater Israel debate, mate. Holy fuck. What is with this chatter's obsession with Channel 14? Ask them who their finance minister is. Ask them who their defense minister is. I know. Go debate your countrymen, okay? Go debate your fucking countrymen. You're just trying to be like, oh, you're silly. You're stupid for saying the West Bank is part of the Greater Israel Project. It's obviously not, dude. Well, we've seen the fucking patch notes, okay? It clearly doesn't fucking matter. What matters is what's happening on the ground. Pogroms against the Palestinian population and complete defense of the settlers that are engaging in these violent actions. And sometimes the IDF itself also engaging in the pogroms. Who gives a fuck whether you think it's not a part of it or not? I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm actually appreciating the time for the debate. Yeah, I'm not stupid. If anything, if there's one delusional party in this conversation, it's you, my friend. Delusional enough to think that like the most far-right elements in Israeli society do not actually operate as the tip of the spear to give you plausible deniability, not even against the rest of the world, because that shit doesn't work anymore for the rest of the world, but for you to wash your hands of the immorality of the actions of the far-right elements. Oh, it's them doing it. Oh, it's the state turning a blind eye to it. It's all fucking bullshit at the end of the day. Because Israel is consistently engaging in frontierism, where they create the next frontier as a justification for Israeli security, for Jewish security, as a matter of fact. That's what they say. Oh, Jews have to be safe, and that's why we have to take over more and more land from other people. We have to destroy their lives. We have to burn their crops. We have to engage in ecological terrorism. We have to kill them. We have to purge them from this land because we, the chosen ones, have to take this land. It's a religious extremist, psychopathic, fascist cult that is unbelievably racist. And that's precisely the reason why there's not a lot of fucking resistance against it. I've brought this up in the past. You're correlating two different things. One is from Israel. One is from the alt-right fam. Brother, it's like saying America is not an alt-right country currently. What the fuck are you talking about? You think America is not run by the MAGA cult currently? Because it is. Wake the fuck up. It's so stupid, dude. Oh, dude, Adolf Hitler is alone. Nazism is a scourge. Well, guess what? In spite of, the horrifying things that the Nazis did, guess what regular German society did? In far higher numbers. They resisted. They got killed for it. I don't see that same kind of initiative from Israeli society as a whole. There were far larger numbers of regular Germans, socialists, communists, trade unionists alike, that militarily fought against the Nazi scourge. Okay? And they died in the process. They got sent to the concentration camps in the process. Far larger numbers than Israeli society as a whole. Where is the Israeli resistance against Israel's fascism? There are some, and I give them credit for it, but they're unbelievably limited in their numbers. So if it walks duck, then perhaps the duck is fucking fascist. You can say it's alt-right, but I don't see you opposing it. As a matter of fact, I see you defending Israel's actions right now in the exact same ways. This is like coming to me and being like, oh, dude, what are you fucking doing? Well, I'm trying to do my very best, okay? I'm trying to do my very best to fight back against the fucking Nazi-ass Trump government, okay? I'm not going to turn around and ever tell someone who's coming in here to be like, America is a Nazi country, to be like, oh, shut the fuck up. America has a right to defend itself. Get the fuck out of here. You are the one who's choosing to defend Israel's actions. You have to fix your brain, okay?
Do you agree with that?
No, it's because the Democrats are supporting Iran, because literally they hate Trump more than they love the country. I mean, it comes down to that with Hakeem at sometimes. No, this is not easy. Peace is not easy when you have a belligerent country and a belligerent leadership like the Islam.
Oops. This is like when Chuck Schumer said, Israel must never have a right to nuclear arms. Israel, we must never allow a nuclear Israel. I mean, Iran.
Islamic Republic of Iran. But the fact that he wants to sell out the country because they hate Trump so much, they want Trump to lose so badly that they don't care about their children or their grandchildren or the future of the free world for that matter, I think is very sad. I think it's tragic. It's a mar across our nation. But, you know, that's one of the challenges of democracy, where we have differing sides that come in.
Yeah. Iranian official tells Jeremy that Trump is to blame for Israel's strikes on Beirut and that he appears simply incapable of reaching an agreement. Iranian official tells Jeremy Scahill, at this point, reaching an agreement with Trump is not really feasible. The primary person responsible for the current situation is Donald Trump himself. The Iranian official told me, referring to Israel's massive escalation in its attacks against Lebanon and Iran's retaliatory strikes against Israel. Should Israel carry out another attack on Beirut in the coming days, missiles will immediately target areas within occupied territories in retaliation. For nearly 20 days, the draft of a potential agreement has been on Trump's desk, said the official, adding that Trump is driven by his fear of the Israeli lobby and his hope that the naval blockade plan will prove effective. Iran will no longer accept or tolerate his current position. This is a seismic shift in the Iranian attitudes. I have wondered out loud as to why Iran had not actually struck back against Israel in an effort to reestablish its deterrence and in an effort to also force Trump's hand into restraining Israel. Now it's happened. Now we wait. Now we see if Donald Trump actually is sincere about potentially restraining Israel, or if war is back on the menu, like full scale, outright war, not dissimilar to what we saw with the endless bombing campaigns. Trita also says he's been posting up a fucking storm on his Substack. There's a surprising level of surprise in the West that Iran was serious about its demand for a region-wide ceasefire and that would act against Israel if it continued attacking Lebanon. Yeah. This is what happens. Anytime Iran goes, hey, we're a 1,000-year-old culture and nation, we really value diplomacy, we are going to do diplomacy, the Western barbarians look at that situation and go, these guys are pussies, bro. They're so scared of the smoke. So they're literally forced to take action like this over and over again. It's so funny that this keeps happening. This is literally what happened during Operation Epstein's Fury. We are at the 100th day of Operation Epstein's Fury. 100 days ago, America and Israel miscalculated Iranian strategic patience and strategic restraint as weakness, and they engaged in the act of perfidy once again, as they had done so in the 12-day war. Okay? This forced Iran's hand in the aftermath of the assassination and the decapitation strikes against his leadership and the Minab school strike that killed 150 plus little schoolgirls going to school. Iran realized that they had to implement the Mosaic defense system, which they, very successfully implemented, and start striking the Gulf and close the Strait of Hormuz and start striking Israel directly. This was incredibly effective. Okay, it showed the rest of the world that America was a paper tiger and that it did not have the capacity to defend any of these other countries with the exception of Israel, and it was barely doing a decent job defending Israel as well. Now that there's been some semblance of a ceasefire, or there's been significant restrictions on the tit-for-tat strikes between America, Israel, all of a sudden they forgot. They forgot about the Iranian capabilities. Yeah, most interesting part of the poll, Israelis don't care about regime change. They just want to wreck Iran. Nearly a quarter, 22%, believe in full regime collapse in Iran is achievable. A solid 77% said the campaign's purpose is clear to them. And remember, Iran still holds certain cards at its disposal that it has not even deployed, like shutting off Bab el-Mandeb on the other side, completely crippling international logistics. Okay? They haven't done so yet. They have not deployed the Ansar Allah movement in the Red Sea. It's actually insane. It's actually insane that they have yet to do that. And America and Israel are still behaving like they have significant capabilities to destroy the Iranian military that they simply haven't deployed. They deployed everything and it failed. Okay? Yeah, I suspect China probably doesn't want them to close Bab el-Mandeb. But again, Iran is a sovereign nation and a very stubborn country in terms of its own sovereignty, in terms of defending its own sovereignty, I'm willing to bet they would even tell China, like, sorry, they forced our hand to do this. Not to mention, U.S. bases were not prepared for this and only had the defense against VBIED, and DOD knew this, and they went ahead with the attacks anyway. Yes, not only did they go ahead with the attacks, they also pulled out their fucking troops. And there was a tremendous amount of loss of radar systems and numerous other expensive equipment. There were people that died in the process too, like active duty service members that died in the process. They couldn't actually fucking escape in time. Trump tells Financial Times that Israel would have no choice with except whatever the deal the U.S. negotiates with Iran. He won't have any choice. I call the shots. I call all the shots. He, Netanyahu, doesn't call the shots. Trump still has more to play nukes, or do you think he wouldn't use them? I feel like the entire purpose of nukes is to never use them. Once you use them, the world changes permanently. Okay? Anyway. Why Tehran was dead serious about forcing Israel to stop its attacks on Lebanon and how it might respond. Part of the reason Iran's insistence on defending Lebanon has surprised Western observers may lie it is nothing but an Iranian proxy. Indeed, Hezbollah is consistently described in Western discourse as an Iranian proxy, and it appears that this statement was genuinely believed by Western observers. So if the belief is that Hezbollah is no more than a proxy, it also becomes more difficult to take Iranian threats that it will defend Lebanon seriously. A proxy, after all, is a piece of the chessboard whose faith almost invariably is to be sacrificed or consumed. Iran would surely risk regional war to defend its queen on the chessboard, but would it do the same for a pawn? Western observers ask themselves. Hold on, I gotta fucking fix my glasses. I can't read without them. But if from the outset the nuanced relationship between Hezbollah and Iran was more properly understood, a mutually beneficial alliance in which Tehran clearly is the bigger party, but not one that can simply issue diktats for Hezbollah to follow, Iran's warnings against continued Israeli attacks on Lebanon would have been taken more seriously. Yet another example of how the simplistic and unnuanced understanding of Iran's geopolitical calculations and perspectives perpetuated in the Washington discourse ultimately undermines U.S. interests and America's ability to calibrate optimal moves in the region. This also is because of our understanding of our proxies, okay? Like, for example, Ukraine. Ukraine against Russia has been deployed as an American proxy, even though it was, of course, unjustifiably and illegally invaded by Russia, okay? America has no investment in preserving Ukrainian lives or livelihood, okay? They don't care. It's just a fucking sleeve that they put their fist through. All right. Kurds are another great example of this. Proxies under American leadership are always dumped when their usefulness has been outlived. Okay. For Iran, the relationship between Iran and Hezbollah is a little bit different. Partially because Iran has to live in this region, right? Iran has to live in this region with Israel. And Hezbollah is right there next to Israel. And therefore, the value that Hezbollah has to Iran is far greater than the value that Ukraine has to the United States of America. Or especially the Kurdish militias have to the United States of America. There's no value at the end of the day in maintaining some sort of defensive posture or burning credibility for the Kurds. That's why America will always dump the Kurds at the end of the day at the behest of Turkish interests. Like, they'll just say, all right, Turks, go ahead. Go off, kings and queens. Do whatever the fuck you want. Nuclear family month canceled. Yeah, this is also here. This is Mark Dubowitz, okay? FDD guy. Remember, FDD, Foundation for Defending Democracy, which is, of course, the only democracy. When they say Foundation for Defending Democracy, they mean the only democracy on the planet, which is Israel. An Israeli government cutout that operates without any restrictions on U.S. soil and literally has its own agents in the negotiations process inside of the room. Mark Dubowitz says, exactly, the wrong reaction. Trey Yingst spoke with President Trump. We'll have more on Fox News in a few minutes. Exactly the wrong reaction if you want a deal. The regime believes it can attack U.S. forces and U.S. allies without consequence. That weakens deterrence, encourages further aggression, and makes the deal less likely. President Trump should let Israel impose severe costs. Okay? That's what the FTD guy just said. Let's see what he said shortly thereafter. Will President Trump finally recognize that there's no acceptable deal to be had with the jihadist theocracy committed to mass martyrdom and mass destruction? He needs to, and soon. The alternative is clear. Maximum support for millions of Iranians who want to bring down the regime and are already back on the streets. Their numbers will grow. Trump should stand with them. Oh, so you don't want to have a deal with the theocracy. You can't have a deal with the theocracy. Got it.
If you would support a deal that includes Iran getting access to that money.
Well, I'm not in the room to understand what the leverage points are. The fact that Iran is doing this sends the signal that they're trying to get some of their leverage back, and they're making these decisions. So it's hard for me to say this should happen or that should happen. I was really and have been really critical of the way the Obama administration dealt with this. Listen, they sent boatloads of money to Iran. Next thing you know, we've got their terrorist-funded cells in Gaza, Hamas attacking and butchering Israelis. And we saw what happened with Hezbollah on the northern Israel border, the Houthis. Listen, all of that funded by Iran. And so anytime you talk about giving them any kind of money, you've got to understand what they're planning to use it for, unless we can assure that ourselves and our country and our countrymen that that's not going to happen. But I'm not in a position to be able to understand all the different things in play here right now at this moment.
But it does sound like giving Iran access to those billions of dollars is concerning to you, that you don't like the idea of Iran getting access to billions of dollars that had previously been frozen.
Well, I don't trust them. I don't trust their regime. I don't trust the way that they have even dealt with this. We don't even know sometimes who we're dealing with. But ultimately, I want peace. I want the Strait opened. I want gas prices to come down. But I also don't want to cut and run. And I don't want to live under a constant threat of a nuclear or a dirty bomb on our soil from this world sponsor of terrorism. And so, I want everything at the same time. I want our national security protected. I don't want Iran funding Hamas, the Houthis, or Hezbollah. I don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. And I certainly don't want them to have a dirty bomb. Can I have all those things wrapped up in one box? I think it's possible. I think that's what President Trump has said he's trying to do. I'm not in the room negotiating right now, but he's been pretty clear. We don't want to live this way anymore. And if we don't deal with the Iranians in this way, we're going to do it for another 50 years.
The president did an interview with NBC News, and during that interview, a couple of things I want to ask you about. But first of them, he pushed back on the assertion that he's broken a campaign
there
promise
was
of
that.
keeping the U.S. out
He
of
just
any
said he
military
hated it,
conflicts.
though.
He said,
it was
I
called the
didn't
JCPOA.
no war. Kristen Welker pushing back and saying that he had said that as he campaigned. You continue to hold town halls, and you're one of the few congresspeople still doing this, as you're talking to your constituents. Do you think voters you're talking to agree with the president on that?
Listen, I think there are some that understand. What I will say, and that's a very good question. What I've noticed is that older voters, people that have been dealing with a terrorist regime in Iran since 1979, they're kind of done with them. They want this
dealing
out of
with.
Here. They want Iran not capable of generating a nuclear bomb. Younger voters,
what Nebraskan has been dealing with Tehran?
New to them. I'm under the opinion that TikTok is spreading anti-Semitic hate every single day.
Oh my God.
I've seen it with young people. I go into classrooms and I talk to seniors that are graduated. And I'm not saying all of them, but there is this anti-Israel messaging that is pervasive among younger people. And I think it's dangerous. And so I really kind of draw a distinction between more older voters and younger voters. I'm not saying they're all the same. Certainly, I recognize also that prices are high, and that's in part tied to the strait being closed. So that creates frustration. And I'm the first to say gas prices are too high. We have to bring them down. But we also can't cut and run and continue to fund terrorism by giving Iran a bunch of money so they can continue to prop up the Houthis, the Hezbollah, and Hamas.
One other thing about that interview I wanted to ask you is that the president abruptly ended it when they started talking about the election, and he
Yeah, David Ellison famously bought TikTok. And as the largest donor to the Friends of the IDF charity, he actually continued the TikTok anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment.
Process. Is that appropriate for the President of the United States?
Well, first of all, I didn't see the interview, and I'm being honest there. I was at the Nebraska Cattlemen's Ball very late last night, and before that, I was at the State Republican Convention, where we are united more than we've ever been in Nebraska. And between church and then other commitments, I haven't seen it. But I will say, the president has an unconventional style. He's always had an unconventional style with the media. I'm not going to weigh in one side or the other on something that I haven't seen.
He unconventionally escaped questions from Meet the Press.
I felt Joe Biden is and was the duly elected president of the United States. And
Joe Biden.
In 2024, the duly elected president is Donald J. Trump. I'm focused on moving forward. I'm focused on affordability, housing affordability, working a bipartisan housing bill through the Congress. And most all of my colleagues, I think on both sides of the aisle, are looking forward to a housing bill passing. And so that's been my focus.
I do have a clip. I will play it for you. Here's a small clip.
Ooh. Nice.
Your elections in this country, we're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC, and CBS, and CNN.
But Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits, because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
You see there, again, that's a short bit of it, but your elections are crooked is what he said.
Dog. He said CBS is crooked. Like, what more can CBS do?
We've had very fair elections, and we've duly elected both President Donald Trump and, to your point, President Joe Biden, and then Donald Trump again. Does that not concern you that he continues to spread those false statements?
I'll tell you, just yesterday at the State Republican Convention, we had a speaker, the co-chair of the RNC, and she brought forward a lot of credible numbers about the number of poll watchers that indicated different problems throughout the country that were in part mostly remedied on Election Day back in 2025, or 2024. So to say that we don't have these issues, even in Nebraska, I think we had 3 or 4 people prosecuted for varying forms of election fraud on a pretty small level. I know this, the election, they're sound. I trust them. We have great systems in place to ensure that. I do worry about cities like Detroit, Chicago, places where they've historically
where
had
there's black people,
all sorts of different kinds of ballot harvesting. And quite frankly, look at California right now. California is still counting ballots. That isn't the way. When I grew up,
they have a very specific system of mail-in ballots that they're allowed to process, but it's not fraud. It's a different way of doing it.
When I grew up in the 1980s and the 1990s, you know who won on election night, and I think 70% of Americans thinks that that's the way it should work. Like, there's a deadline, there's an election day, you count the ballots and you announce the winner. When you are still counting ballots for days, weeks after the election, I just think it depreciates the confidence that Americans have in different systems. And we're going to find out here in a couple of weeks what the Supreme Court says about that. I think that's a ripe issue in front of the court right now. And I hope they say that election day is an election day. You get your vote in on election day and you count it. We don't play these games for weeks thereafter.
And just to note, in California, you are allowed to mail in your ballot. It can be postmarked on election day. It then is good. So it takes a while for the post office to get it. They then do all of the verification on the back end once they receive that ballot. So it can take some time. But Congressman Mike Flood, we really do appreciate your time. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. What's left of it?
You too. Thank you. We are learning new information about Iran's missile attack on Israel. We're going to take you live to Jerusalem. That's next.
Jerusalem Post, citing sources, Israel will respond to Iran and is still studying the timing and scale of the response. Yeah, keep studying. Spotted an Israeli telegram. Oh my God, Biden would have been better. Oh my God. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've ever heard anyone from Israel say that. Oh my God. By the way, incredible babies, okay? Like, genuinely, incredible babies. Israel, the biggest baby society of all time. Better talking head on CNN. Damn, okay, Trudeau.
To follow breaking news just into CNN, the Israeli military has said it intercepted incoming ballistic missiles from Iran for what appears to be the first time since early April. With us now is CNN military analyst, retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton. Also, the founder and former president of the National Iranian-American Council, Trita Parsi. Great to see both of you. Trita, I want to begin with you. In your view, ultimately, what precipitated Iran to fire these missiles into Israel for the first time since this peace agreement or ceasefire went into effect early April?
The U.S. and Iran have been negotiating, and the Iranian position has been that any ceasefire has to be region-wide, meaning that it cannot just be between the U.S. and Iran, but Israel also needs to stop its bombardment of Lebanon. And I think the Trump administration took that very seriously. That's part of the reason why there was that phone call that Trump had with Netanyahu, and rather a colorful phone call. And there was a push by the U.S. to push back the Israelis. But yesterday, the Israelis struck at, or actually just a couple of hours ago, they struck at Beirut, in a specific area in Beirut that is also very sensitive to the Iranians. And the Iranians had warned that they would respond if that took place. And now it appears that they have. At least 4 waves of missiles have been shot at Israel. And now Trump is stepping in and saying that he does not want to see Netanyahu strike back.
No, we haven't confirmed that the president has stepped in, but you are hearing through your sources that the president has reached out to the Israeli leadership and in response to Israeli leadership saying it will have a powerful, quote unquote, powerful response to Iran?
It has been reported by other outlets that Trump has at least said that he will do this. And I think this has always been the question mark. If the Israeli-Iranian rivalry flares up again, will the U.S. re-enter that war or will it stay out? And I think if it is true that Trump is going to tell the Israelis to back off, do not continue this, that is the right call, because he cannot allow the Israelis or the Iranians to ensure that their rivalry takes the U.S. hostage and forces the U.S. back into a war that it does not want to be part of any longer.
Trita, is this a setback or is this more of the same?
No, this is absolutely a setback. We shouldn't be in this situation at all. If diplomacy had been done somewhat differently, I think we could have avoided this scenario.
Cut Israel
altogether.
out. Say it on CNN.
It may also be a turning point in the sense that now it becomes very clear what happens if there isn't a deal. And that may sharpen the focus of every side to make sure that they actually get across the goal line. But there are a lot of challenges in the talks, and almost all of them go back to the deep, deep mistrust that exists between the two sides.
Since when did we just start accepting what a habitual liar says is fact? What? Trump? We don't. What Trita's saying has since been confirmed. Yeah, me when I call the shots. Financial Times. I call the shots. I call the shots. He, Netanyahu, doesn't call the shots. Yeah, we believe you, big dog. For sure. For sure. Definitely. Totally believable. Anyway, I gotta watch this fucking... By the way, at the behest of Israel, the ceasefire is violated again. Israel's being shot at. Every other news outlet is talking about how Donald Trump has to do a forceful response here. Donald Trump has to reign in Israel, potentially. What is Fox News talking about? Exposing the truth. Ron Johnson, Wisconsin senator, slams Biden health officials over COVID safety.